All right, podcast 2 of the day, people. I'm doing getting heavy and busy and stuff, and more phone calls, I guess. But anyway, almost an agreement at gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Had Brian Langen today. Check that out as far as state races go. And then I had Amanda Collins last week after the show. We'll talk a little bit about that, among other things. My favorite news story of the week from WBIR. I can't wait to share this one. This is hilarious. And I don't know, whatever else comes up, because you know what we do. I've got an interesting one out of California, so we'll talk about that. So almost agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to our website, almostagreement.com. Check out the Voter Guide 22. It's got that Brian episode. It's got that Amanda episode, among other things, as well as KGIS and Knox County Election Commission. Double check your registration status, where you're voting, whose district you're in, so you can know who you can actually vote for. And I'm still working on trying to get somebody to come and explain some of these ballot initiatives, the 4 actual questions on there, so we'll get those done. Anyway, like, share, friend, follow, subscribe, tell your friends about us, all that kind of cool stuff. We're going to do a show. Sam's on the phone. Max is going to call in here in a minute, and we'll go from there. So anyway, almost agreement time. Hi, friend.
Hey.
Oh, so yeah, I'm still snotty, but that's it. It's just snot, boogers, all sorts of boogers.
All right. Yeah, I don't remember being like that. I guess nasally congested, but everyone's a little different.
Maybe the sigh was more of the intent too. It's like, I just don't, like, that's the other side. It's like I'm just as lethargic and apathetic about doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I need to fold some laundry, which I'm always kind of like, I don't really want to fold laundry, but it's like another level of I really don't want to.
Right. Yeah, I was like that for probably a good week or so. I mean, they talked about people even like, months afterward, just, what they were calling the long version or whatever.
Yeah. So I don't know what the deal is. I don't know. Because the other thing too, everybody's told me is that I'll test positive for a month, regardless.
I don't really see that.
I don't know. That's what, like, one of the guys I work with who had it a little while ago, I was talking to him about it last week while I was sitting around the house, and he's like, yeah, man, you'll test positive for like a month. And I was like, okay, so how do I know when I'm okay to be back in public?
It's not that common. I mean, if you're testing positive, if that test is accurate, that test is saying that you still have the virus in your system.
Right, because it's not an antibody test, it's an antigen.
Yeah, I guess depending on, there was the other, a year or so ago, I mean, there was a couple of different tests or whatever. I think the tests have gotten more accurate now.
Right. There was a while there where they were too accurate, which was a problem, but I don't know where these sit on the spectrum.
Yeah, the at-home test, I'm not sure if it's testing, if it's the antigen, so it's testing for, antibodies of your body fighting against it, or if it's actually detecting the virus itself.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
So anyway,
I'm pretty sure, week and a half after mine, before I went back to work, I got a negative test, but I think that was a PCR, which are supposed to be more accurate.
Yeah. Well, definitely, I took another on Saturday. Was the last time I took a test, and where the first one I took, it went immediately. It was as soon as my snotty whatever liquid got touched on the thing, both lines lit up, and it's like, oh yeah, you got it.
All right.
And it took every bit of the whole 15 minutes on this last one. It was 12, 13 minutes, and the line was very faded coming in. It's like, okay, well, that counts as a positive test still, but I'm taking it as there's less viral load. Since it took so much longer or something like that. That's my layman's guess at what's going on with that.
Possibly. I don't know as much about those tests.
Yeah. So anyway, they're the Joe Biden tests. I will say this: I did not register on the app and load in the data to the app. I just took the test. I'm curious if a lot of people did that. It's be an interesting little.
I doubt it. It was 100% by any means.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, that's something that everybody talks about all the time. Is that the current infection rate or whatever is X, but we all know, especially with the at-home test being available now, that it's probably significantly more than that because people aren't reporting their at-home tests.
Right. I mean, even I went to a little walk-in clinic type thing. I'm not even sure if they report or if they reported it to the city or county. I'm assuming they did, but
I would think that they're obligated.
I would think so, yeah. But I'm not sure earlier this year if it was still obligated or not.
Yeah, so I don't know. It'd be. I wouldn't think there'd be anything other than maybe some very generic demographic, like this age bracket, this gender, this race would be all they turn in. I wouldn't think that they would be obligated to turn in your individual with your social security number and all that other crap. Like, I don't.
Right. Yeah, I'd say it's probably just general numbers. Like, hey, we had 100 people come in today, and 75 of them.
I mean, I think it'd be important for the health department to know some of the demographics, but very basic demographics.
Right.
Like, we've had 100 tests today, 50 male, 50 female. Of the 50 males, 10 were positive. Of the 50 females, 9 were positive, or whatever. I would think that the health department would want at least broken down to those basic levels.
Or even, break down to, I guess you could do zip code for county areas. Be like, hey, we've got this many people in this part of town, this many people in that part of town.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting one, whether they report the location of the test or the residence of the testee, or both.
All right.
Because you went down to Maryville for a test or something, didn't you, one time?
I made an appointment for it, but was able to find one. That's when I was going through different websites, and I think I made an appointment at one in like Sevierville.
Yeah,
but was able to find one closer earlier.
Yeah. So
I think at that time I was bouncing back and forth between different pharmacy websites trying to see who had a close one available and the soonest available.
Right, because that was right before and then
there was like different versions of it. It's like, well, this one can do the antigen test, but this one can do the PCR test.
Right, and one of them takes 3 days, and one of them's more or less instant.
Right.
So, I don't know. Yeah,
fun.
That's my health status, everybody. I've got boogers, and I've got boogers, and I'm lazy. So we'll see how things progress, because my folks got it. I may or may not have given it to my dad. I'm not sure. I'd seen him a couple days before the Compass show where we're pretty sure it got shared amongst me and the Compass guys. And so I don't know, like, I haven't talked to Scott and Jesse in depth about where we think it came from, whether I brought it into the studio and they got it from me, or whether one of them brought it in. I find it interesting that...
it's really hard to figure out timeline. It's like, well, when did you start feeling bad?
Yeah.
Like, well, that could be different for anybody.
Yeah. Well, these three media moguls that we are, and all the different interviews and interactions we've had over the last couple of years, and we haven't gotten it till now. I think that's amazing.
Right.
I do think that's it. I don't think this is the first time I've had it.
They're possible. It wasn't uncommon for people to have with no symptoms whatsoever. The asymptomatic, positive people.
It just doesn't make sense to me that I was out working in the grocery stores the entire time in the full throes of it when it was at its worst.
Right.
But at the same time,
there was a series. You're not in close contact with people, because I think eventually they got it down to if you were in close contact for 6 to 10 minutes, it was what was considered close contact with.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Yeah.
It was if you've just kind of been passing, it's very unlikely. But
maybe
if you were in close contact with someone for an extended period of time.
Right. That and the kids.
Okay, you probably got it if you were that close to someone for 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah. The kids is the other part of it too. The kids have been they've been back to school since they were allowed to be back in school. And that's another one of those estimated, because we can't figure out the real numbers. I want to say last I heard, and this was a month or so ago, that they figure that of school-age kids, K through 12 or whatever. Hold on. Hey, man.
Hello.
We're rolling. Let me get Sam back in. All right. Max is in the house. But another one of those estimated numbers that's out there is that they've 75 to 85% or something like that of school-age kids have had it. Even though, technically speaking, it's far less than that as far as the numbers go, because the kids apparently, as far as asymptomatic cases go, the kids have it. So that's my guess, is the kids brought it home from school, and that's what got it onto me.
It's very probable.
So, Anyway, yeah. So the Max, to catch you up real quick, I have boogers and I don't feel like doing anything. That's my current health status.
Okay.
I have lots of boogers. So my favorite
buggers.
I have a couple of different WBAR stories that I wanted to share because I thought it was hilarious. And so as usual, it's Tuesday night we're recording, and it's right after Jeopardy because me and the wife like to watch Jeopardy. And so like between Jeopardy and whatever comes up next, there's always tonight on 10 News at 11, blah 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 or whatever. So tonight on 10 News at 11, the Blue Angels will be here for the Smoky Mountain Air Show, and we're gonna take a deep dive into the parking situation for spectators. Top news.
Oh, that's funny.
Top news: the parking lot for the air show.
Not the air show. The parking lot for the air show.
Exactly. We're talking about practice. Yeah.
Not a game.
Not a game. We're talking practice.
That's not uncommon. I mean, when you have a big event like that's going to have a lot of people going to it, they try to give the public a heads up, like, hey, if you're going to this, this is what parking's going to be like, just to make that clusterfuck of hopefully a little bit less.
I mean, okay, and they do game day parking episodes and stuff like that too. I don't know. Right. When you have a 30-minute newscast, it's only 22 minutes with commercials. 7.5 minutes of it is sports. They do 3 different mini clips of weather to total for like 10 minutes. You have 5 minutes of news left. 6 minutes of that 5 that's left is national news. So you have one local story that you squeeze in there for 35 seconds, and it's parking for an air show on the prime time 11 o'clock news. Like I get it on like the live at 5 at 4.
Did you watch the evening news yet? I mean, because usually, it's just a repeat of it. So I'm sure they even talk about it on the 6 o'clock news.
I didn't. I don't watch WBIR news. I just make fun of their commercials.
So you're just assuming that that's going to be their main local story for the evening.
I don't know. I mean, that's
maybe it's just, hey, if you're on the air show, you're fucked on parking. On to today's sports.
Right.
They made it sound like
Coach Heupel took a shit. Because
maybe it was just to bring people in. They're like, oh shit, I was thinking about going to that. Where do I need to park? And then they pull you in with other stuff.
I mean, it's and indirectly it's an ad for the event too, and so it's like for what purpose that Channel 10 feels like they need to promote this event. I'm curious to know that too, because I mean, realistically, it was huge for us when they did a story on the Legalized High series.
Yeah,
that was really good for business, and so it's always nice
they do it close to the airport. So I mean, I wouldn't know where the fuck to park out there if it was at the airport. And I would think like, okay, I guess I'm gonna park at the airport.
Yeah.
Unless you want to park in some like random business and not really know where they're going to be flying over at.
I mean, I'm sure it's like, I guess, I don't know if they have like an official viewing area that isn't the airport, because like you can't, it's not like you could be sitting in the edge of the airfield or anything.
I would say they probably got grandstands. Yeah, I was about to say, they probably got grandstands there by the National Guard base.
Well, I mean, because the friends that we have that work down there or retire down there, they're all working like the event, so like it's on the Air Force Base, McGee Tyson. That's where the air show is,
right? But on the air base, not in the actual commercial side of the airport.
No, just the air base.
It'd be kind of weird to be, getting on a Delta flight to Chicago.
Like, is that a fighter jet? What the fuck?
Taxiing on the runway and a fucking Blue Angels come flying over. Oh, shit.
Why are these flights going down? They have a Titan fighter taking off for the air show.
Well, it'll be fun. I'll see them. I'll see most of I'll see the edges of it.
Why will you see the edges of it?
I mean, I could, I see all the airplanes that fly in and out of Knoxville. They fly over my house.
No, you won't see anything in the air show.
You don't think that the Blue Angels will be doing a lap as they're turning around and getting this far up? I think they'll get this far up.
Nope.
I don't think I'll see any of the cool stuff where they're like doing their, canopy to canopy flight neat stuff, but for them getting set up to make a pass, I think I'll see some of it. When is the air show? I'll do a live. I'll do a Facebook live of me watching the air show from the backyard.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
I don't know what it is this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll watch the news tonight and find out. That and
if you watch the news tonight, you'll just find out where parking is.
Right. I assume they'll say when the parking is available. They won't say the date. Just parking opens at 10 a.m. My other favorite story I shared with the group was the KPD man found dead inside a Taco Bell bathroom. That's my other.
How was he found dead? Did he choke on a burrito? I saw your little thing. I didn't see like.
It's just. I mean, it's the guy like in interviews with the staff or whatever. Somebody said they saw him come in and go to the bathroom, and then were working and not paying attention. And then a couple hours later, either a customer came out and said, I think there's somebody stuck in the bathroom or something like that, or one of the employees went in to clean up and found him.
Yeah, the initial story I saw said, there was no foul play suspected.
Right. So whatever.
How did he die? Heart attack?
It didn't say. It just said
like Elvis.
Maybe. Fried peanut butter banana tacos.
Fluffernutters. I thought what it was.
Yeah. So, top stories. Here we go. That's it. I guess probably the most, as far as the local stuff goes, the biggest story, I guess, of the week would be that County Commission on Thursday. What?
I knew when he said the big story of the week was going to have to do with politics.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's at least the big story, the big local politics story. Should I preface it that way? Would that make it a little bit better? The big local, the big local one is that the Thursday before the game was the swearing in of all the either newly elected or re-elected individuals from this August election. And as part of that, commission does their reorganization meeting, which is essentially they elect a chair and a vice chair, which is essentially just the organizer of the meetings. That's it. And so the county commission elected Courtney Durrett to be the chair, and Terry Hill's the vice chair. And Courtney's one of two Democrats on a 11-member, 9 Republican, 2 Democrat body, and so everybody was making a big stink about that.
Don't they vote who's going to be the leader?
Yeah, the commission elects him.
Right.
And so.
Well, maybe it's the shitty job.
I mean, it's not like a glamorous great job or anything.
Let's vote one of these 2 Democrats on it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it either.
Yeah,
everyone vote for one of the 2 Democrats.
Well, so like Terry,
make them look bad.
Terry Hill was predicted to be the vice chair, and there was conversation about at least one of the 2, the chair or the vice chair, would be a girl, since it's a 6'5" female body. It would be weird if a majority female body didn't have at least a female chair or vice chair or whatever. And I think it's Gary Bustler, who was the chair prior. He's still got another year on his term. Well, 2 years, I guess, on his term. But it said that he didn't want to continue as chair because he is, and this is one of the weird things about county government, is you can be in commission and work for the county at the same time, because he is the chief of staff for the county clerk's office. And so he just took that job, and he said when he took that job, he didn't think it was necessarily appropriate that he sought return to chair as an employee of the county. So it's kind of weird. I find that interesting. Like city council cannot work for the city in any way, shape, or form. School board can, if they have a teacher certificate, they can sub, but they can't get paid for it. But they can't work in the central office. They can't be part of the administration as far as, in the accounting or anything like that.
Right,
for the school board.
Overseeing what they're doing, yeah.
Right. But county commission, you can be an employee of the county, because like Biggs works for, I think he worked for the clerk's office, and now since he's trustee, he's vacated that job because the trustee's job is a full-time job. But when he was just a commissioner, he was a commissioner and a county employee. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it. I find it an interesting little wrinkle.
I wonder why the city doesn't allow it.
I mean, in general, I don't understand why the county does. I think that's the weird one. Is like, at the end of the day, the commission and the mayor's office are collectively approving a budget, and you work in an office whose budget you're approving as an elected official. It's kind of weird. So you work for Parks and Recs as your day job, but you work for the commission at night, and at night you're voting on expenditures and county finances that involves Parks and Rec.
Do they vote on? Are they like Congress? They vote on their own regs. Can county commission decide to vote on a budget that increases their wage?
It's a good question. I don't know that. I know the mayor's office can, or like the commission, the mayor can put a raise for the mayor in his budget to be approved by the commission, but the commission has to approve his budget.
Well, I think there's instances, I mean, at least in the legal system that I'm assuming, I think I've heard of it on, different commission levels, that they will recuse themselves from making those decisions that they're involved in. They're like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and take any kind of, scrutiny out of this.
Right. Because Kyle was telling me, like, if, as far as some of the little rules, way back in the day when I didn't know anything, Kyle Ward was telling me about how, it's like, as a commissioner, if the county decided to do some trash thing and we're taking bids on trash companies, he's like, if Ward Waste decided to put a bid in, I wouldn't be able to, it would be inappropriate, and I wouldn't be able to vote on who the county chose to do the waste services, which is still kind of like, okay, well, fine, you don't vote on it, but
all your buddies are going to vote.
All your commissioner friends are going to vote on it, knowing full well that you are one of the bidders, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on the makeup of the commission, that may be a hindrance to your ability to get that bid. But yeah, so that's the big story is that they elected a Democrat and a Republican primary, or like a Republican majority body elected a Democrat to be the chair.
I don't see that as a big deal.
I know. I mean, realistically, the way
it was making headlines left and right. I mean, everyone was talking about this.
I mean, in my circles, they were. Apparently, some Republican something were putting out. It almost came off as like a fundraiser thing. Like, can you believe the Republicans on commission did this thing? And they were actively pitching a fit about it. There was a
but what
calling for like
what? Right.
Yeah, they were asking people to go to their to contact their commissioners and tell them that that's not okay.
Oh.
But what does the chair do? That's what I'm saying. Like, do you know what the chair does?
Do
they have more power? Do they have anything else?
No, not really. They just run the meetings. And as far as like, they call the meeting to order. When a topic is getting conversed, they kind of do the, Commissioner Smith, you have 5 minutes. Commissioner Daly, you have 5 minutes kind of deal. And those kind of back and forth.
Well, maybe she's just very, very organized, and they were like, dude,
yeah,
it's a lot of fucking work, I don't want to do it.
Right, she'll be good at this. And
she's good at taking notes.
It'll
keeping up with what's going on.
It'll keep her busy straightening out these meetings and not worrying about what the rest of it is. But so like one of these texts,
they're not calling for like a recall. They're like, hey, all these people voted a Democrat in. You need to put in a petition to have this person recalled.
Well, here's like the Hornbeck was asking for anybody who'd gotten the text to share it with him, and he posted a couple of them, and it says, "Unbelievable, Republican quote: Knox County Commissioner Terry Hill voted to put a Democrat in charge of commission. This would be like Republicans voting for Nancy Pelosi to run Congress. Contact Terry Hill and ask her why she voted for Democrats." And then it has a link to the county commission website of where their thing is. And then the same exact text, except Republican Rhonda Lee voted to put a Democrat in charge of commission. And then it goes on from there. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's calling out.
Nancy Pelosi has more pull being the head of Congress than just being.
Right. It's a bad analogy. I agree with that. Yes.
But it sounds scary.
Exactly. So he's running for for that person's seat next year, and that's why he put that out there.
I mean, we don't know who. Like that was I haven't heard yet where those texts came from, because the Compass guys were asking for it too. If anybody got it to share it with them, and so I'm assuming they're trying to figure out who is sending them out. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it changes much about the commission.
All right, guys, I've been sending them out.
Okay,
it was me.
You need a better hobby. Why are you so angry about them voting? You don't even know what the chair does.
Well, it's because they're a Democrat. If they're a Democrat, they're evil.
I mean, that is
I'm a mega racist.
Yeah.
According to Trump. According to Biden.
Yeah. That was an interesting speech in Pennsylvania last week. I didn't catch the entirety of it. It was like the memes about it made it are worse than it was, but like it was a pretty ominous setup. You had a bunch of Marines, and you have this weird red lighting in the background. It was a pretty, ominous setup for the speech.
He's a fucking idiot. Jesus. Like all the presidents ever, he's bottom of the list.
I don't know about. I'd have to think about it. I will say this much, that we have had a pretty good run of bottom of the barrel for the majority of our lives.
Well, I mean, you can say what you want about Trump and what he says, and like he's a fucking idiot, and like he talks about women, and he's a racist, and like all his shit. But when you listen to Biden, like it's somebody that needs to.
Did you see Trump's speech in response? Because Trump did a speech like the day after.
Home.
I mean, I think both of them need to be put in a retirement home. I don't disagree with you on that premise of it. I think 80-something years old is a little old to be trying to run a country. Experience and all that aside, you're supposed to be retired. That's the point.
I mean, well, I'm just saying, like, he's a fucking idiot. At least Trump's got some brains in him at all. Like, Biden just seems like he's just, fucking just a puppet. Just saying words that he doesn't even realize what they mean.
Because like Trump was all mad that they staged the photo of the documents on his floor. Like it's all but an admission that yes, he had the documents, even though he said he was giving them back or whatever. But they spread them out on the floor like I left them that way. It's like, well, so you acknowledge that you had them and weren't supposed to, or not? I'm confused.
Well, I think it's funny, like, when Hillary had documents at her house, all the Democrats were like, oh, so, she has that certification, classified, top secret clearance, whatever, like, shouldn't punish her, like, it wasn't like in enemy's hands or anything. And then all the Republicans were like, burn her, and then Trump does pretty much the same thing. And all the Democrats are like, burn him. The Republicans are like, no, like that's not really true.
And in the middle of his speech in Pennsylvania last week, the crowd started up the "lock her up" chant, and it's like, are you guys missing? You guys are totally missing this right now. He is under investigation for the thing that you wanted her to go to jail for.
Exactly.
And you're bringing that chant back. Like, does nobody catch the irony in what's going on right now?
But so the point I'm making is Trump says his stupid shit, but he knows what he's saying. He knows if he says some stuff like, grab her in the pussy or whatever, he knows what he's saying. Point is, Biden doesn't know what he's doing. He says, I guess I don't even know what's worse, is the guy that knows what he's saying and continuing to say it, or the dumbass that is saying shit that doesn't even know he's saying.
I mean, that is a fair question to ask.
I mean,
that's the same thing with my version of what did we ever figure out the phrase? Because polytheism, was that what did we were trying to figure out the title?
Polycist,
politicism, polyatheism.
Polyatheist, so polycist.
Yeah. Anyway, that whole thing, and yeah, it's just another example of when our guy does it, it's okay, and when your guy does it, it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And it's just that's how rotten the two-party system has made the system at large, is that, and it goes back to that Sam Harris quote from a couple weeks ago. And yeah, I get it. It's Hunter. It's not Joe. But, he would vote for Joe Biden even if Hunter Biden was out there killing people and using his dad's name or whatever because he hates Trump that much. And it's like, the problem here is that these are the two options we get. Not that the two options suck, or not which option is worse of the two options. It's the two options that we're stuck with. That's the problem here. But we can't talk about it that way, because by talking about it that way, you're letting one of the bad options in. And whoever you're talking to's version of the worst option is who you're going to help by saying both options suck. And that's just dumb to me. And that's what needs to change. Yeah. And that would maybe get you voting again, Max. If you had options that you didn't feel like you was hold your nose and vote, because I don't want that other thing.
Well, no. I mean, that has nothing to do with it.
That has nothing to do with ranked choice voting.
I mean, I think ranked choice was very interesting in the Alaska race just now. It kept Sarah Palin out.
What do you think?
I think that gives a more accurate view of what the populace really wants. It's like, okay, I'm not for this one person, but I'm less against this number 2 or number 3.
Well, what ranked choice does, especially in like the Alaska version, it's like I really like this person, even though traditionally this person isn't likely to win because they're an independent or because they're a Democrat in a Republican majority state or whatever. And so I can still pull the lever for this person because that's the person I want. And I don't feel like I'm throwing away my vote, because as the ranked choice voting system runs its course, maybe my one that I wanted for number 1 gets dropped off, but I can at least, it automatically falls back on my lesser of two evils of what's left. And so I feel better.
You rank the top 3 candidates, 1, 2, 3, and whoever has the least amount.
Right. And so what ended up happening in Alaska, it was a special election to fill a seat, and it's funny because the same 3 people are still running, even though the special election was like a week or so ago. But the same 3 people are still running because they will then be on the November ballot, because they had to, the Alaska state, the way Alaska fills a seat, because the senator died in office. And so the way they fill the seat is with a special election, but then his term ends and the regular election for that seat is in November. And so, essentially what happened is, like, in the aggregate, Palin got the most votes of the original 3, but it was less than 50%. So whoever got the 3rd most votes dropped off, and everybody who picked that person for 1 went to their number 2, and their number 2 was the person that was in 2nd place that then surpassed Palin and won the seat. And so essentially it was a lot of people like Palin, but more people really didn't like Palin. So a majority of the people put Palin as 3. And so when the second round of the process went through, it took the person from 2nd above Palin. And so and as Sam was saying, it gives you a better option as a voter, and you're more likely to get a result that is more congruous to the populace than the current format. I think there's some ways you could game the system, because I think they're already talking about this in the follow-up, because essentially what happened is a Democrat won where the 2 Republicans took the most votes from the front end. It's just the one Republican was most disliked as well. And so the play will be the Republicans will do everything they can to get this other candidate to not continue to drop out of the next version of the race, so that it's just a head-to-head, and then it might have a different result.
I swear I saw a story that, and I'm not sure like whereabouts they are in the actual voting process, but Palin was asking, I guess, the other guy that I guess was some kind of front runner to her to drop out of the race. It would give her, I guess, that much more advantage.
Right, because the other guy... Say again?
Is that what you just said, Seth?
Sort of. Sam was saying...
They said the Republicans were trying to get that other guy to drop out.
Right. But the way Sam said it was that the other person was in the lead. But yeah, that's the play. That would be the play to get to kind of game a ranked choice is for the parties to do everything they can to basically not primary anymore. And I would wager that in states that are using ranked choice, Alaska and Maine, and I think there's like one other state that's doing it, I wouldn't be surprised if over the next couple of years those state legislatures remove primary process and take it out and do it as a closed primary, or even a primary by not caucus. What's the word? Convention. So the Democrats will hold a convention, and the Republicans will hold a convention and get together, and they'll pick who their candidate is. So if
you have two Republicans and a Democrat, so we have Sarah and Joe. They're both Republican. So Joe, when he's running, he's like, vote for me, but make sure to put Sarah Palin number 3. That's how it helps me out. And she does the same thing. So they go like that, and then so everyone puts the Democrat as number 2, and then when it comes down to the Democrat wins because
everybody that put, which I mean, honestly, for if an easier hypothetical to put together. So Sam's a Democrat, and Max and I are the Republicans. We don't run saying put the other one of us as 3. We just say vote for me. I'm the best here. And I would think in more normal circumstances, and normal circumstances being not the right word per se, but if we were both fairly consistent Republicans, that the majority would go 1-2 if it's a majority Republican place, that I take 1, you take 2, and then the other person takes 3. And then when that drops off, of all the people that voted for Sam for 1, their number 2 pick is going to select between you and I. But since Palin's a more Trumpy candidate and this other guy is a more centrist Republican or whatever, those centrist Republican voters have to make the decision on whether they hate Democrats or they hate Trump Republicans more. And it seems like they hate Trump Republicans more, and so they picked the other guys too. And so it also depends on the candidates, I guess, is what I'm saying, is that if the candidates are more, if they're, if it's a real fist fight of Republicans on base Republican issues and they're very similar on a lot of it, then I would think it's not going to change as much. It won't shift to the other person as often as it will be between the two if it's a Republican stronghold like a Knox County seat. I wouldn't see it, generally speaking, but again, I'd say like in District 18, we had Testerman, Elaine Davis, and Kaplan. I think even as more Trumpy as Elaine Davis is and more centrist as Testerman is, I even think that one in Knox County, I still think the Republican comes out even in a ranked choice. And it depends on the campaign too. I mean, if it's you can't vote for, if I'm Testerman's camp and I'm saying you can't vote for Elaine Davis because she's a crazy radical right whatever, it might switch that and give Kaplan a shot. But I still don't think Kaplan would have a shot locally in all things being equal here. It would have to be a special version of a Republican to be so detestable that it can't work outside of the standard system. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I mean, I think right now, especially with all these Trump-backed Republican candidates that are out there, I think if you had more that were ranked choice, if Pennsylvania is ranked choice, I don't think Dr. Oz has a shot in hell. But as a head-to-head in a state that is most likely leaning Republican, it's, it doesn't help that the Democrat in Pennsylvania running against Oz had a stroke like a month ago and can't speak. Not that I'm making that.
Just to get elected.
Yeah, well, I mean that is how stupid the system is. Is you have Dr. Oz, who I don't know how long he's lived in Pennsylvania at this point, but Trump loves him. He's a reality TV guy, so of course Trump loves him. And I think it's something Fetterman, I think is his name. Literally had a stroke back in January or February, like a serious stroke. And I'm not making fun of it. I'm not saying it makes him a bad person, but he had a legitimate stroke and he can't walk very well, and he is opting out of debates, which of course the Oz camp's making a big deal of that, even though they probably wouldn't have done the debate, all things being equal. They're going to they really want the debate now because they know that this guy can't debate because he can't.
Can't talk.
He can't talk in long stretches and stuff like that.
Are you sure about that?
I'm pretty close. His campaign has stated that they don't want to do that he is not his verbal skills have not come back since his stroke.
All right. Now, I've just heard about a couple races where there was plans for debates, but then so and so backed out. I think I'm mixing it up more with Herschel Walker or whatever with the Warnock.
Yeah.
You talking about the running back?
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys back in the day?
I can't remember who he played for professionally. I know he played for Georgia, and then after that, no fucking clue. I mean, he's big in Georgia because he was, one of the Bulldogs' more famous running backs, I guess. But I can't remember. I meant to look it up. I've seen a couple videos pop up. There was something with Oz and Mastriano as far as something to do with some kind of ad that was like lettuce, but it was some fancy vegetable word that apparently there was some.
Oh no, Oz did a thing where he was talking about charcuterie or something like that.
It wasn't charcuterie. It was something like that.
Right, some fancy appetizer, general appetizer word.
Yeah.
That
I think when I read Oz had messed it up first, and then Mastriano got on and did a
right. Well, the Dr. Oz
campaign video of this is what vegetables really are or whatever.
Mastriano.
That's what our politics have come to.
Well, no, the Dr. Oz thing is that the whole commercial was Dr. Oz was trying to be do an everyman commercial. I'm just a normal guy living in Pennsylvania. You should vote for me. I put on my, pants one leg at a time just like everybody else. And I eat this weird, crazy, it's not a weird, crazy appetizer. It's just a really fancy word that normal people don't use. And so that was the joke of it. It's how out of touch are you when you're doing an everyman campaign using some ridiculous phrase for a snack, like charcuterie, instead of just, a cheese plate, like a normal person. But again, it's not charcuterie or whatever, but it was something like that. Because Mastriano is the Trump candidate for governor in Pennsylvania. And that guy's a full-on stop the steal, full-on QAnon-style Trumpy candidate. Which I think the Mastriano campaign in primary, the local Democratic Party, the state of Pennsylvania Democratic Party, or maybe the guy he's running against now, spent more money on an ad for him at the tail end of primaries than either candidate for that primary had spent to date. I think that was one of the races that happened in. Is that the Democrats are this guy will be easier to beat, let's help him get in here, and he's the full-on crazy one. But, that's kind of how they treated Trump, too, in the presidential ones. Hey, let's hope he wins the primary. He'll be easy to beat. We have Hillary Clinton, on paper, the most qualified presidential candidate ever, if it wasn't her, according to AC.
What?
According to AC, Hillary Clinton is the most qualified, on paper, candidate to ever run for president, and would have been president if it wasn't her. And he means her as in has a vagina, not her as in she's just a detestable, unlikable human being.
Okay.
Not her as in the specific human being, her as in girl. Is why AC thinks that she didn't win in 2016.
Okay.
But alas. What else did I hear? President Biden sent another $13 billion. Got permission to send another $13 billion to Ukraine today or yesterday. Brings us the current total to $43 billion.
Awesome.
Next highest spender is the UK with their new prime minister, who apparently is excited about the potential of controlling the nuclear weapons. That was a weird quote. I'll have to go find it to get it right, but anyway, UK spent $5 billion on Ukraine assistance, and we're passing 40.
Ukraine should be spending everything they have.
Well, that's part of what this $13 billion that we're trying to get, or that got approved today, is to help backstop some economic things that they have going on. It's basically to be their bank so that their economy can stay afloat, and if their economy can stay afloat, they can continue fighting. If their economy collapses, it's going to be harder for them to continue fighting.
How does it benefit us?
I feel like a good person when I go to bed at night because we're helping these people.
Okay.
I don't know. I think Germany is already talking about a subsidies for individuals and businesses for natural gas in the approaching cooler months because the cost of heating housing is going to get really, really bad this winter.
Oh, sorry, I just looked it up. It was crudité or something like that. Crudité, the whole Oz and Mastriano debate. Crudité.
Yeah. Max, you're a fancy food person. What's a crudité?
I have no idea. Never heard that word before.
Yeah. So, yeah. But, yeah, that's his everyman campaign, crudité. Because everybody knows what that is.
So I still don't know why you're telling me that Germany is gonna.
Oh, because the economic impact of the war on Germany, even though that they're not spending anything, their cost of energy because of the war in Ukraine is doing significant damage to their economy with the sanctions that we put on Russia for their actions. And they're still buying oil or natural gas. They were. I think Russia cut them off this last week.
But I still don't know what that has to do with anything. Like, what is Germany's going to subsidize their people's gas? Is that what you're saying?
Right, their natural gas, their home heating, because they're predicting it's going to get very, 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 very expensive when it starts getting cold outside. And then what does that do to their economy? And what is Germany? Sam, you might be able to help. I think Germany's like the fourth largest economy in the world, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, they're definitely probably top 5.
And so what does a collapsing German economy, because they can't afford to keep their homes warm, what does that do to the world economy as a result?
Absolutely, it should do absolutely nothing.
Okay, should and will will it do something is the question, not should it. And I would think I think it will.
Know why it should.
I don't think it. Again, we can discuss how much we should be involved in foreign affairs and all that kind of stuff, but we are. And what will this do to our Mercedes purchases?
Who fucking cares?
I mean, the bigger issue.
There's another Mercedes sold in the United States.
I mean, the bigger issue with. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The big issue with like some of the major markets is it's not just their populace, it's their industry. To where some of the stories I've read is a lot of these like metal manufacturing places, they've essentially got literally hundreds of millions of dollars worth of metals that are in a melted state. That if their natural gas or whatever supply to keep that at a melted state is cut, all of a sudden, like, they're fucked. That metal hardens, and there's no going back from that.
Right, or even if there is going back, it's millions and millions of dollars to get the plant back and up and running and get the metal back into liquid state so that it can be formed into what they want.
Right.
Like, it's a huge. It's not as simple as we have a power outage here, and you go a couple days and lose the contents of your fridge. Well, maybe that's the analogy on a much more expensive level. It's like when we lose power for a week, and the entirety of your fridge and freezer melts, and you have to restock your food supplies. It's it's an expensive grocery bill on the other side to get back to normal. And then where does those costs go?
We'll use your analogy.
Okay.
Fucking power goes out in Knoxville. Everybody in Knoxville loses all the contents on their fridge. How is anybody in fucking Germany affected by that?
Well, I mean, the continuation of that analogy would be that's the contents of the fridge are a different one. I mean, the other one, the better version of that, if we want to do a local one, is like if Alcoa aluminum quit running for a month. Well, that would affect manufacturing. That could affect manufacturing in Germany if they're using that aluminum, because it's going to put them months behind the supply lines.
Well, sorry, Germany, you're fucked.
I agree, but we buy a lot of stuff, and the Germans buy a lot of stuff from us, and so there are people that are in business that are Americans doing business, selling things to Germans for whatever. That
so we're worried about businessmen here in the United States doing business in Germany. Like, to me, fuck them.
I don't disagree with you in the grand scheme of things. But again, this is not a should or should it matter, should or shouldn't it matter. It's a will it or will it not have effects, and it will have very significant effects to the U.S. economy.
Well, what I'm saying, it has effects because people can't get their fucking BMWs or any, like, at the end of the day, that does not matter.
I mean, so like we already have issues in the car market that we've been dealing with since the beginnings of the pandemic.
Oh, I know, because I just got the notes today that I'm getting a 2023 model sometime.
Your Bronco?
Yes.
You should demand some upgrades or something, because it's like the whole point of pre-ordering it was to have the first of the 2-door and all the cool parts that you wanted in Knoxville, and I've seen at least 3, like regularly, that people that live near me that have 2 that have them.
And those are all either ones that people pre-ordered, or the people that pre-ordered them sold them back to the dealership so they could sell them for another $15,000 markup.
Right. Either way,
there are zero brand new 2-doors on the market.
Right. Either way, you should get an upgrade because you lost the most important piece, which was being the first one in town to have it.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing. Is have the new one, but yeah, I called Ford today, talked to them. She's like on September 28th. Any orders that are not filled will be converted to a 2023 model. So I don't think mine's going to be filled between now and that time, or I would have had already a VIN number,
right? Then you would have
production schedule kind of thing.
Yeah. And
then, but they're like, oh, but you'll have the options for the new options coming out. And I'm like, the new options coming out? Well, I still be. So this is the thing, is like, I'm guaranteed a price when I got ordered the 2021 model, and I couldn't get the 2021 model. They're like, well, you can get the 2022 model, but we'll guarantee your 2021 price.
Right.
So it was like $10,000 cheaper.
Right. And then now the 23 might be another
model.
Right. Might be another $10,000.
Might be more expensive.
Right.
But if they were saying, hey, you can have this new package that we didn't offer before, and I choose that, are they not going to honor the discount? I mean, can I go say, okay, well, what's the difference in the discount between that and that, And they're like, oh, we didn't have that model before, so we really can't compare them.
Yeah.
So it turns out the one that I ordered is just going to be the base model for 2023.
Right, and you're gonna end up paying whatever the 23 sticker is.
Yeah, for those new upgraded things. So yeah. Anyway,
sounds like some hooliganery, some bullshittery.
Damn first world problem.
Yep. Anyway, the moral of the story being is it's going to make a difference to us how much Roland pays to heat his house. That's a reference for Sam. I'm assuming he's still there. Sam?
Roland Munson?
To heat us?
To heat his house, yes.
Oh, to heat his house.
Do you still talk to him? When's the last time you talked to Roland?
It's been a long time. I think I sent him an email years ago and never heard anything back.
Bummer.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to have him on the show on this topic, see what he thinks.
I mean, he came here a couple times and was basically told me, like, all right, next time it's on you to come here. And I was like, okay.
Who is this person?
It was a German exchange student we had in high school that Sam became pretty good friends with. And you went over there one time at least, right?
Yeah. Right after graduation, went there for a couple months.
That's where we learned. That's where I learned, at least, when you came back and you were talking about the school system, the way the school system works there, and like you can essentially graduate high school at like 16 or whatever.
Right.
And then you can.
I think from what little I grasped from what they were saying, is I guess there was some kind of certificate, at basically like your sophomore or junior year that you could get. And it was like, all right, you've kind of got your educational equivalence of this level, or you could go on for further education.
Right. This is the requirement. The minimum requirements of the state have been fulfilled. From here,
that's how most European college countries are, where it's 16, you graduate from high school, and then you go on to, I always get them confused, where it's college or university. You have like 2 years college that's paid for, just like your junior and senior year. And then if you want to go on to university from there, you can. So we talked about this in the past. I think that's why people are like, oh, college is free in Europe. No, college is 11th and 12th year. It's also free in the United States. Right.
And hell, in the state of Tennessee, at a community college, your freshman and sophomore year are essentially free at this point. Like you can, if you graduate from a Tennessee high school with a decent GPA, you can go to Pillissippi for 2 years for free.
Yeah, really. Well, we got a daughter that's graduating here soon with it's sound design, sound creator.
Huh.
I don't know what kind of degree it is, but like maybe making sounds for movies or making music for movies or the sound thing. And she told my wife the other day, she's like, found out there's not too many jobs for that.
I mean, there's a ton of jobs for it. It's just the paid part's the hard part.
Yeah,
because I mean,
probably not Knoxville either.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends.
Sound design, that's what it is.
Yeah. Because I think that'd be one that would fold into if I could get the Barbarian production machine rolling, where you have if I had people on roster that were more like general YouTube content creators, like a Mr. Beast style, or what's the guy's Dude Perfect, or there's that one Australian one that's really funny too. That's Ridiculous, I think is the name of that show. If we had, if she could attach herself to a company that was helping people produce videos for people like that, like a Mr. Beast style, like as Mr. Beast shows, like they have a bunch of sound stuff in it where it's they use sound effects and they have intro music and outro music and all those different things, and then somebody would need to help get the audio all correctly lined up with the video and stuff like that. That's there. It's just not in the old school version where you're going and working for a news, a television production company like a Discovery. Those jobs aren't as prevalent as they used to be. But with the content creation, I think it's there. It's just it's not one where you go in and get a job with a 401k or anything like that. You're working with. You'd have to go and attach yourself to some content creators and be their production assistant, essentially.
Mr. Beast has restaurants. Have you heard about that?
Has what?
Restaurants.
Yeah, we got it a year or so ago. It was it's funny because I think it was it's Mr. Beast Burger. We got Mr. Beast Burger and we got it from, I think it was an Asian restaurant.
Yeah, they have like 1,600 or 16,000 locations.
Yeah,
and it's basically you're a mom and pop restaurant, and you say, "I want to offer Mr. Beast Burger." Right. And I don't know how. Maybe they tell you what distributor to buy from, and
right. You fill out an application with them, and then they get you in touch with the people that you get the packaging from and the raw product from, and it only comes through DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever. And so you get an Uber Eats order at a Soccer Taco, but you build an order for Mr. Beast Burger, and the Uber Eats person comes and gets it and takes it to wherever.
Yeah, I was talking to DoorDash guy, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Bravo's, the Italian restaurant right there in Beard Hill."
Yeah, that may be the one we got it from. Because I remember looking at the DoorDash, like, your driver is here picking up the food.
Uh-huh.
I remember looking at the map, and it's like, I was like, what's there? It doesn't say on the DoorDash one, but I pulled up the regular map and looked at it, and I was like, it's either Bravo or Soccer Taco or one of those right there on the hill.
It's Bravo, and I was like, that's crazy. So I went on like DoorDash and like went to buy a burger from Mr. Beast and stuff, and it's that site, like, you have no idea where it's coming from. You think it's coming from Mr. Beast. Like
Yeah.
you can't order anything from Bravo. You can nothing.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's the same thing. I mean, for Sam's sake, it's the same thing that they do in the procurement side of your day job, your other job. Same idea.
I guess because they couldn't.
Right, because like
somebody
it's
went to whatever place they couldn't order stuff from whatever the other place.
yeah, from the customer
Except that
side,
they
it
make.
just looks like Sea Ray boats or whatever.
All right. Now, I think the other place, I think they've stopped doing the custom ink, which was the big company.
Oh, did they?
Pretty sure I think they stopped doing that shit.
Okay, well, that I mean,
I think that was more when they were slower and they were trying to pick up like any kind of stuff, but they've gotten to the point where they're pretty much over fulfilled.
well, but when it's a restaurant version of that. It was what they were doing.
Right, yeah. Basically hitting these small orders, and it's like, all right, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a grill. We can cook a burger for you. We got buns. Here you go.
Right, and apparently Mr. Beast's thing was because they went from like a couple hundred to the 16,000 or whatever Max was saying right at the beginning of the pandemic. Like they intentionally expanded it to help restaurants, and they've got it
Yeah, I was
priced.
looking, like they're all over Europe and they're over like UAE. They've got like 30 locations in UAE. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, but apparently like
That's kind of crazy.
they're priced like even though you're essentially kicking back at only a hand. I don't know how much Mr. Beast makes per order or whatever, but it's apparently a pretty good deal for the restaurants that get the bid because it gets some traffic, you know, and so they don't. And for the most part, DoorDash and stuff is really hard on restaurants.
Yeah.
But I guess since it's not taken out of your normal inventory and you're only carrying it for the DoorDash part, it makes it a little less negatively impactful, and it keeps some revenue rolling to help these restaurants out. Because Mr. Beast was talking about that on a podcast I was listening to, and he was in, and he was like, "Yeah, we barely make anything." He was talking like nickels and dimes a burger, like they make nothing. I mean, they make a bunch of money off of it because they have so many of them.
They make nothing. They make nickels and dimes for doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah. No, but I mean, the brand is what you're buying.
Even if they made a penny,
they're making money. Yes, they're making lots of money.
1,600 restaurants. You know, if it's they sell, each one only sells one a day. They're still
Right, making $16 a day for literally just. But I mean, again, but my point being is like that brand is what you're selling, because they do the tiger fries. You know what I'm talking about? They call it beast. They call it beast fries or whatever. But like that tiger seasoning, that's like a Cajun spice.
Mean MSG?
Yeah, that's a Cajun spice.
Tiger seasoning is just MSG.
Okay, well that's what they do.
All it is.
It's that kind. I don't know if it's Tiger brand seasoning or whatever, but it's more or less that seasoning on their fries, the Cajun fries kind of thing.
That's funny.
I wasn't mad at it. I enjoyed it.
It didn't bother me a bit. I think that's fucking cool shit they do with that. Let's talk about another thing.
Okay.
On that topic.
Okay.
Five Guys. How expensive Five Guys is.
I haven't been in years.
So, yeah, I mean, I went like a couple weeks ago, maybe.
What'd you spend?
Close to 30 for 2 burgers, which is what I normally get. And I was like, fuck it, I'll get their smallest order of fries. Like they've got a small, medium, large now. Like for the longest time, they had 2 sizes. I got their smallest order of fries. Of course, I still get an extra goddamn handful of a shit ton of fries, which I'd never finished.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was close to $30 for 2 of their quote unquote regular burgers, which is a double patty. But yeah, it's fucking expensive.
Yeah, so I saw TikTok, and the guy was like, first time, it was this TikTok, was like, first time at Five Guys, and he's like, let me get a bacon cheeseburger, a regular fry, and a strawberry milkshake. And they were like $35. And he was like, that's crazy. He's like, no. Let me just get a regular burger, like a small fry, and milkshake. They're like $26. And so I saw that thing, and I was like, it's not crazy. I've been at Five Guys, but maybe I'm not paying attention. So I went online to see how much it is. And just going to like DoorDash or whatever and taking out, not looking at the fees and stuff on it. But like their regular burger is like $12.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And then a regular order of French fries was like $5.37.
I mean, hell though. I mean, anymore McDonald's isn't any better. It's cheaper, but by quality comparison and all things being equal, like, I mean, I want to say, you know, we went and got.
But one person can get out of McDonald's for a sandwich, fries, and a drink for under $10. I don't
know if that's true anymore. I want to say like a quarter pounder with cheese
Big
meal.
Mac combo is not $12.
A quarter pounder with cheese meal, I would say, is like $8 or $9 now.
Yeah, the combo meal. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can get out of there for under $10. Five Guys, you're not getting out of there for a combo meal for less than $20. That is crazy because I mean, they're obviously the quality's better than McDonald's, but like in the day, 2 McChicken sandwiches, they were on the dollar menu. I think they're on the $1.25 menu. I'm just as happy with.
I mean, again,
Five Guys has always been expensive.
Yeah, so I was at the store today. We're talking about that, and I was like, saw that video, and I was like, so people are going and spending $20 on a fucking burger combo meal from Five Guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think before
one of our guys was like, yeah, they do. I was like, go to the computer, raise all their prices by $2, everything across the board. They're spending $20 on a fucking burger combo at Five Guys. They made $2 more here.
I mean, honestly, like even before when I was going in there and just getting like 2 regular burgers, you know, not adding bacon or any kind of like extra charge, and getting their, you know, I think they've got like a regular and a large drink. So just getting like a regular drink was still close to $20 or a little over $20.
Oh,
this time I was like, you know what, fuck it, I don't get their fries very often. I mean, they are decent fries. I was like, you know, I'll get their small fry because I know that they still give you an extra fucking handful after that small fry, regardless.
So, talking about that, there's a guy that's been coming down to our shop in Powell that works at Five Guys, and I asked him, I was like, "What's the policy on your guys' fries thing?" He's been there, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, and I said, "What's the policy on the fry thing?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "I was like, well, like, what's the policy on doing on the fries? Like, you guys dump them in the bag and stuff?" He's like, "Oh, well, we blanch them once, and then we pull them out, and then we let them cool, and then we cook them again a second time, and then when you order them, we cook them a third time, which makes them crispy." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "It gives that soft mashed potato feeling on the inside." So you would think that this guy knows about the business because he just described the whole process. And I was like, no. Like, when you order a fry, they fill up their little thing, they put it in the bag, and then they dump a scoop in there. Like, what's the policy on that? Is it like fill up the container, put a half a scoop in, do a whole scoop? What is it? He's like, I don't know. I have no idea what the policy is. And I was like,
just everybody just throws fries.
He's like, I don't work fries very often. He's like, I just, I see people do that. And I was like, there's not like a policy in place on this is how you do it.
I mean, there's got to be something because it is a standard.
It's a standard. They do it
right, like
all the time. And I was like, how do you know how they cook the fries and have detailed and to tell me the third batch gives it a crispy outer and a soft mashed potato feel on the inside? But you can't tell me the policy on how you make an order of fries? I come in there and say, I want a small fry. You have no idea how to do it? He's like, no, I don't have no idea. I was like, there has to be.
I assume part of it was, they just don't want those fries going bad just because they are, I don't know how fresh cut they are, but I mean, they're that kind of more quote unquote
if they're cooking
fresh cut.
Right. If they're cooking them 3 times.
Right.
You can't. So it may not work on the 4th or 5th go round, so you might as well throw them in the bag and make the people happy.
Right. Yeah. I assumed it was more to like keep people happy with quote unquote fresh fries. And they're like, we've still got a pile sitting here.
And it makes me less upset that I just spent $30.
If it's slow, do I get extra fries? And if it's super busy, I don't get extra fries because they're selling all the fries. Like that's the problem with like owning a business. You start thinking about shit like that. You know, you're like
right. I mean, obviously,
yeah. Is it worse to throw it away, or is it worse to give it out to someone and they throw it away?
Yeah, it's like when you're at a restaurant. I'm sure you guys all have done this, and you know, you had a good meal, you're happy, and you know, you're paying the bill, and then the server comes over. It's like, do you want a to-go cup and get a drink to go? And you're like, no, but I wasn't thinking about that. But yeah, sure. But my first brain goes, I was happy. I was going to walk out this restaurant, and now you're giving me shit to go for free that I didn't even want. But I'll take because you're offering. I'm like,
right. And then the owner in you is like, pissed. The owner in you is like, that's a 7-cent cup, 2.5-cent lid, half-cent straw. You know, I mean,
8 cents on the soda that you put in there.
I'm not really worried about the soda portion of it, but that's like, you know, 50 cents we just handed out that they didn't even want or need. And you only did that as the server to get even more tip, you greedy bastard.
Exactly. Like, not mad if someone's like, can I get a Coke to go? Yeah, sure. To like make the customer happy. But when servers offer that, I'm always like, fuck, your boss hates you.
I know, because like I was at the First Watch. Have you ever had First Watch?
Not here in Knoxville. We had it in Colorado.
I wasn't mad at it.
First Watch.
I wasn't really excited about it. Like, it was good. It was a good. I can't remember. I got like a club sandwich or something like that, and some salad and stuff. It was good, but
breakfast.
It wasn't cheap.
Yeah, no, it wasn't cheap, and it wasn't anything special. I mean,
the bacon was good. The bacon, whatever bacon they use, is good bacon.
I can't tell you, like, it's forgettable.
It's $1 million bacon. That's what it said on their menu.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, like, I ate there. I don't have to be like, oh, I went to First Watch and fucking this sucked or that sucked, or you know.
Right.
Like I went to First Watch because we remember going to Colorado. Can't remember what I paid. Can't remember what I ate.
Right.
So it was not a good experience or a bad experience.
Right. It wasn't anything that made you hate it or rant and rave about how awesome it is.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was the first time last week, 2 weeks ago, I was there with my dad. It's the first time I'd been in there, and it's like, okay. I don't know. The premise of a breakfast place is still weird to me, but it's a brunch.
Yeah, they close at like, what, 2 or 3?
I guess. Yeah, their breakfast menu is like, when I got there, I was like, there is nothing that sounds less appetizing to me right now than bacon and eggs, like a breakfast meal. But it's good.
You don't like breakfast?
I do like breakfast. I just don't like. I don't know. I don't often go out to eat for breakfast, and if I do, it's like a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich from McDonald's, or Hardee's is probably the best breakfast sandwiches, I'd say, in the general fast food realm. Hardee's is the champion of breakfast.
Yeah, but don't you guys do breakfast or dinner every once in a while?
Oh yeah, we do it here at the house. Like I cook it all the time.
I just, like, no bacon and eggs? Is it just pancakes?
No, like I guess my point is, if I'm going to go out to eat, breakfast is not one on my list.
Gotcha.
But like when you do breakfast or dinner, what do you make?
It depends. Generally, it's pancakes, big thing of scrambled eggs. Usually bacon, because nobody likes sausage that much. But we do sausage every once in a while. But bacon, eggs, pancakes. We'll make up a fruit salad or something like that. And 9 times out of 10, because I don't really care for I don't dislike pancakes, but I don't really like pancakes, and so I'll usually not. I'll take like a tortilla shell and make like a bacon, egg, and cheese breakfast burrito. For the kids, will make we make it fun.
Biscuits and gravy.
I do every once in a while. I'll get gravy for it, but I'm the only one that'll ever eat it. And then
no hash browns.
Intermittently, we'll do sandwich night. We'll do hash browns every once in a while. We did hash browns a couple weeks ago when we did it, which is really good. I got some preform ones or whatever. They're like Kroger brand in a bag. You just threw them on a cookie sheet. Like they were McDonald's style ones. They're like the one big hash brown.
Oh yeah, they're little, yeah.
or hash brown cake, I guess is what it's called, and not like the scattered Waffles House style.
Yeah, it's like an oval.
Yeah,
or a triangle.
I've never successfully done hash browns from scratch though, like taking a potato and shredding it.
No, I get the frozen hash browns like in the bag.
Because like when you do it with fresh potato, you gotta like strain it, like you rinse it, strain it, and then like
you gotta rinse it and strain it. Yeah, because that starch just gets like awful.
Yeah,
I just buy the frozen hash browns. Like if I do breakfast, it's eggs, sausage, biscuits and gravy.
Links or patties on the sausage?
Well, normally we do patties because the wife doesn't like links.
I'm good either way personally, but that's the same thing. Like
me too.
I can I can get by with patties and the kids. They will not eat links, even though they both will destroy hot dogs all day long.
No, I think I prefer links better. But the wife likes her sausage to look like a hockey puck, like burnt. Like,
see, my wife
sometimes. Good.
My wife's weird as mine is she likes maple sausage or maple bacon.
Maple bacon.
And
so like I've cooked her sausage before, and I'm like, oh, this is burnt as fuck.
And
I way overcooked this, and I give it to her. She's like, I would like it if it was a little bit more done. And I'm like, I was about to throw this in the trash because I thought it was fucking burnt as shit.
That's rough.
So now I cook it till I think it's burnt, and then I give it a couple more minutes.
And then you cook it some more.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I want, I don't know. I don't, we do like breakfast for dinner in this house, that's for sure.
But then every time I do breakfast, I always do way too much. And like, I just don't know where to stop. And like, I'm on my brother's boat. He's like, I'm cooking breakfast. I was like, cool. And then he just does this giant biscuit and then some sausage gravy. And like, that's your meal. And I'm stuffed and happy. And I'm like, why don't I ever think of just doing like a big one meal? Like,
I've been wanting to do.
You gotta have 17 components.
I've been wanting to do a breakfast casserole on one of them, but I just know it's not going to land well with everybody else.
Well, when we were in Colorado, we were staying with some friends out there for the widespread festival, and like at a buddy Chad's house, and his wife made like a breakfast casserole. Like the first time she did it was like vegetarian, and the second time she did it with sausage, and she did breakfast casserole and then a fruit dish. And there was, I don't know, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 of us at that house.
Yeah.
And I just made one casserole, and I was like, if I was here, I'd have been like bacon, eggs, sausage, biscuits and gravy, fucking French toast, like pancakes, like, you know, I have all these people in my house. I got to make all this food. And she made it just like breakfast casserole and then a fruit salad. And I was like, this is so simple. I need to get on this line of thinking when I have a bunch of people in my house.
See, I'm like you though. I like to cook stuff. Like I just like to cook. Like the bigger, the fuller the table is, the better I feel about my cooking, whether the cooking's good or not. Yeah. Like I'm just like, look at all this food. I don't care if it's good or not. Here's all the food.
Yeah, it's kind of like someone may not like a breakfast casserole, so now you have biscuits and gravy. Well, you don't like biscuits and gravy, so I have sausage and eggs. Oh, you don't like sausage? Don't worry, I made you bacon too. Oh, you don't like any of that stuff? Let me make some pancakes real quick.
Right. Let's just throw it all together. You got it. We got anything you need. And the suck part is that pancakes do not last. Pancakes and biscuits will not hold for more than like 3 hours.
Well, it depends on the biscuits.
I've never been able to resurrect pancakes like the next morning or something like that. Like there's like 2 or 3 pancakes left. If you put them in the fridge, I don't know. I can never resurrect them.
We don't really do pancakes. Biscuits, though, you just throw them in a Ziploc bag, throw them in the fridge, pull them out the next day, throw them in the microwave for 20 seconds, throw gravy on top of it. They're good.
Yeah, well, I mean, smother anything in gravy and you'll make it okay, to be fair.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I have to do biscuits and gravy for camp food this year. Did that last year.
I want biscuits and gravy right now. What are you talking about?
I can go to McDonald's.
You did biscuits and gravy for lunch.
Well, I mean, we don't ever do
That'd be
breakfast, to be fair. When we go, camp meals consist of, I always think that's funny when we put our little, like, meal plan together or whatever, that there's a breakfast, lunch, and dinner category. It's like we do.
Yeah, I brought a bunch of lunch, and I was like, well, fuck, now everybody's, like, stuffed on breakfast.
Right. Because we're all out, and nobody eats breakfast before we go out. It's like maybe a granola bar as I'm sitting in my stand.
Yeah, we need to do brunch and dinner and then snacks.
Yeah. I got I get some of those Cliff Bars or whatever last year. They were not particularly delicious, but I tell you what, like, get in there, get set up, chill out until that 30-minute window opens up. Eat that Cliff Bar. It was enough to not sit there and be hungry. Like, it wasn't like, yay, I'm full, but it was not like I sit out there cold and shivering a little bit or whatever, But that Cliff Bar was enough to be like, all right, I'm good. I'm not starving. Because I might,
for sure.
maybe that's why I could sit still for once, is I had some heavy protein Cliff Bar in my belly. Go out and chase one of these deer and just eat it raw in the field. So hungry. Well, yeah. But we're running up on it. A couple more weeks till archery opens. Month. I got the magazine. I got one at the Walmart the other day. I haven't looked through everything yet, but I'm excited to get out in the woods.
I was looking through some of it, just looking at some of the other regulations of, like, the different areas.
I was talking to Brian Langan. Say again?
Did you get your bow yet?
No, I haven't seen him yet because I was out all week last week. I need to text him before, because tomorrow, Wednesday, is normally the day I run into him while we're working. Now, we were closed yesterday for the holiday. I don't know what their company does and how the schedule, because the schedule's not normal this week because everybody's, all the deliveries and stuff are, for us at least, are pushed back and stuff's moving around. And so I'm not sure if I'll run into him tomorrow, but I'm going to text him. I need to text him here in a little bit. And if he's going to be at that store at about the normal time tomorrow, I'm going to see if I can pick it up.
Cool, yeah.
But I was talking to Langan, Brian Langan. He's running for Senate Seat 7 against Richard Briggs, which we don't like Richard Briggs because Richard Briggs hates anything close to pot, and he will be leading the charge again on likely to. I don't know that for a fact, but he will likely be leading the charge again to ban Delta 8s and 9s and 10s and THCAs and all that stuff in the next session.
Fucking asshole.
Yeah. So for our sake, at least, if you're a District 7 voter, we prefer Langan because Langan's on board with, he wants full rec. He would want to do it. The only real restriction in place would be a 21 plus, some sort of verification on quality of product. But one of the things he's like, if like, cause I the way I put it to him, I was like, I know you're pro legalization and stuff like that. I don't know specifically, but if you were writing the bill to make legal weed in Tennessee, how would you write it? He's like, full recreational, and he would want it to be a low cost permit. He wouldn't want it to be a high dollar permit or a restricted permit where it would be one that would be hard for anybody that wanted to try to get into the business to get into. Not like the old liquor license where there's only like 20 in the state or whatever. It would be an open permit process, so it should be doable. So that's where I'm at on it. I like that. And he wants a special tax for it, and it'd essentially be the same as a liquor tax, and they'd spend all that money on schools and infrastructure work and whatever. And Sam, I think you would like him. He was very apparently a couple of years ago, one of his top things personally is the Tennessee waterways. I can't remember exactly what the verbiage was he used, but essentially in 2008 or 10, when the Republicans took over the majority in the House and Senate here in the state of Tennessee, one of the early things they did was change some sort of environmental whatever. And so at the time before they took over, Tennessee had 30% of Tennessee waterways was considered damaged or something like that. and now it's over 50% of Tennessee waterways are considered damaged, and the definition of damage was unusable for its intended purpose or restricted usage of its intended purpose, the biggest factor being E. coli in the water, so it's not swimmable or recreational use water because you get sick if you swim in the water. And most of that E. coli is either from storm runoff because municipal infrastructure can't keep all the water in the system to go through the the cleaning center or whatever before it's put back in the river, and or farm runoff, which was interesting because apparently the way this is a federal standard is it's the state of Tennessee changed the law to I think it said 1,000 animal units. Anybody want to guess what an animal unit is?
A part of a bug?
An animal unit is, I think he said it was 1,000 pounds of animal. So a chicken is 1/500th. I don't know how many pounds of chicken. What's a good sized chicken's?
5 pounds.
5 pounds. So 1/200th of a unit is a chicken. So to have one animal unit of chickens, you would have to have 200 chickens on a farm. And so to have 1,000 animal units, you'd have a 200,000 chicken farm. And that's where it hits the EPA standard and where the EPA would come in. And so if you have a farm in Tennessee that's under that however many thousand pounds of animal, it's not regulated by the EPA, and therefore, I guess the way the state changed some stuff around made it so you don't have to have a drainage pond or whatever on your farm and all this different kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't quite understand it, but it was an interesting little dive into the agricultural.
Let's go back to the guy that wants to make marijuana. He said he's District 7. What does that mean?
Well, it's the same guy that's talking about the chicken tonnage. That's one of his things. But it's District 7 in the state Senate. It's not you. It's really weird.
What is that? What area?
It's not far from me. It's basically Knox County north of 40, and then it swings up between Halls and Powell. So northwest, so north of 40, west of 75, north. So Powell is 7, but Halls is 6.
So would it be beneficial to us to put some things in that says, hey, if you vote for this guy, he will want to take away these products?
It would be. It could be. It would be. It is foreseeable that yes, there are some District 7 voters that are our customers.
I mean, if it's Powell, we have a shit ton of people from Powell.
Right. I don't know exactly where the line is because District 5 also slices somewhere in between that. District 5 is like Anderson County and a slice of Knox County, and that's Senator Sexton. No, McNally.
So the question is, this guy that is anti-weed, he is a Republican for 7?
Yeah, Senator Briggs is a Republican, and this will be like.
And he's running against who? Who's running against him?
Brian Langen.
And Brian Langen's a Democrat?
Correct.
So it'd be hard to overturn him.
Yes. It is very. It is very unlikely, and I mean, when I was talking to Brian today, I was telling him it's not. The problem is that it's not an electable issue. You're not going to get elected because you're pro pot, and there's plenty of people in Knox County that are pro pot. Even if those plenty of people were people that voted in Knox County, other issues are going to be higher on their list.
So what other issues?
I mean, it's going to be whether it's.
So what is Langdon? What is Langdon versus Briggs? What are the issues that Langdon is for that Briggs is not for?
I mean, I haven't talked to Briggs yet, so I don't know his official answers on these.
You finally got me a fucking issue of politics I want to talk about,
and I don't know all the answers. I know. I'm sorry. The general. You just want to
hit the hot topics of election stuff. Ooh, did you hear about the controversy for them electing a Democrat for the fucking seat of whatever.
The general Republican issues in...
I'm not talking about general Republican. I want to talk about those people.
Okay, well, let me see if I can't do a tiny itty-bitty bit of...
Homework? Yeah, if you're going to be the election guy on this podcast, he goes, no one else here is. Sam's not. AC's not. I'm not.
I have to know everything. All right, so issues. Mr. Briggs' issues. Jobs and business. The governor of Tennessee and Tennessee legislature have made Tennessee one of the best financially managed states in the country with a business-friendly conservative philosophy. We are a fast improving state in educational achievement while recording the lowest unemployment level in the state's history. Tennessee enjoys the lowest taxes as a percentage of personal income in the nation. Tennessee also has the lowest debt per capita in the country. We have cut $570 million in taxes with 30% reduction in the food tax, elimination of the gift and inheritance tax, and phasing out of the Hall tax. The rainy day fund is at the highest level ever. Education. Tennessee must continue strong commitment to education, the support of teachers and students, which most teachers and school advocates are probably going to disagree with him on most of this, but we have provided $1.5 billion in education, $500 million increase in teacher salaries, blah, 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 blah. Opiate epidemic. The opioid epidemic has ravaged East Tennessee and is unquestionably the state's most serious challenge. As a physician, Dr. Briggs understands the medical and human consequences of the opioid crisis, but educators, business leaders, and constituents have pointed out the devastating effects across our state. Employers might want to expand business but cannot find employees that test drug-free. Children born to addicted mothers have behavioral learning disabilities. His legislation 2 years ago closed over half the pill mills in Tennessee by requiring strict pain medication, specialty certification for medical directors. In 2018, legislative session, Briggs organized retail crime bill, anticipates removing over $200 million from the illicit drug trade, and will return $14 million to the state treasury in stolen taxes. Healthcare. As a physician, Dr. Briggs knows firsthand the importance of good health. He's worked tirelessly to improve the healthcare for your uninsured Tennesseans. Too many rural hospitals have closed. Tennessee cannot afford health insurance and medication. He sponsors legislation every year addressing these issues. Tennessee's have some of the highest death rates from heart attack, cancer, diabetes, and obesity. Only 7 states have higher worker absentee rates due to physical illness. And then conservative values. Senator Briggs has supported conservative values in Tennessee legislatures, which votes every year to balance the budget, cut taxes, and reduce government regulation. As a member of the Tennessee Capitol chapter of the Right to Life, he supports not only the protection of the unborn, but also the right to life for the whole life. Strongly opposes euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide. Richard has a perfect voting record protecting the Second Amendment. Strong family values, blah, 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 blah. There you go. That's his top issues.
Your last 3 seconds actually was something different than what a Democrat would say. Second Amendment, right to life.
I mean, he doesn't address really the healthcare issues or the opioid issue. I mean, close pill mills. Who cares if you got $200 million of illicit drug trade, which how many millions of that was pot?
No, I'm just saying, everything you read, it could have been just about any politician.
No.
A
Democrat's
all the way up
a Democrat's not going to talk about economics by cutting taxes and reducing taxes and lowering red tape or oversight by the state or whatever. A Democrat's not going to say that. Now, do and say are not the same thing. I agree, but
no, I would say that if you read that, if you stopped at the right to life and the Second Amendment thing, that was the last 3 seconds of your 30-second read, you couldn't tell if that person was a Democrat or Republican.
I disagree with you, but I get some of it. He talks about He talks about education and being pro-education, spending more money on education. Tennessee Ready testing has been a debacle, which is not a Republican issue.
We need to have health care for people,
right. All right, so Langen, right?
Yeah, Langen.
All right, get involved, contact us. Langen, Tennessee Senate District 7, forget politics, fix problems. Priority, support workers in their rights to organize, so he's a pro-labor union guy. Defend privacy and bodily autonomy, which is the new code for pro-choice. Support our teachers and fully fund
body autonomy.
Autonomy.
Yeah.
Support our teachers and fully fund our public schools. Reform and legalize and tax the sale of cannabis. Keep guns out of the hands of criminals, domestic abusers, and the mentally unwell. Repair and upgrade our roads, bridges, and sewers. Address the cost of housing. He doesn't have as much behind his as Briggs does as far as. But I mean, Briggs is just. I mean, a lot of Briggs is like noting things that he's voted on as a senator, which obviously Langan is not a previous senator, so he doesn't have that. But you know, as far as the Langan issues, you know, Briggs, I'd have to go double check it, but I'm guessing that Briggs was among the Republicans who voted to have the constitutional amendment number 1 coming up, which is the right to work thing, which is a significantly anti-union bill.
I still don't understand. Like, I want to see what exactly is on the books versus what they're amending. I still think it's really vague.
It is like what it.
I'm not 100% like what they're amending it from, really.
Right. It said it already. It's one of those. They're using the system of a constitutional amendment to make it harder to change anything in the future. It essentially everything that this Amendment 1 does is already in place in standard Tennessee code annotated.
Right. That's kind of, I was like wondering, like, that's what's a couple of the opinion pieces I've read about this that have, you know, some kind of knowledge on it. Or basically like, you know, we already have these rights, like this is actually taking away or actually like kind of hindering some of the rights of it.
Well, what it's doing realistically, I guess this is the best way to explain it now that it just popped in my head, is like one of the things that I've talked to people about, and I think the idea of a trigger law is stupid and should not be okay. Like, it should not be okay that we're in a legislative body and we put something in place if something else happens, so that the thing that I voted to create may not take effect until after I leave office. I think it's problematic that I don't have to deal with the consequences of my vote because the vote doesn't take effect until something else happens elsewhere. And so
it's kind of like a weird thing. It's like, I know it's not going to fly right now, but maybe things will change later and it'll be okay then.
Right. But the most important thing is I probably won't be here anymore. If I'm doing a good job, I'll be some higher level of office, or I'll have retired and made millions and whatever. And I think that's the same thing that this Amendment 1 is it's a little bit different in that, but it basically says that, okay, well, let's say maybe not this election cycle, but the following election cycle 2 years from now, there is a blue wave and a bunch of Democrats get in. Well, they can take apart a bunch of different parts and pieces of the labor regulations that the state of Tennessee does, but they can't take apart this one unless they can get it perfectly done. And they can't take apart this one until the next gubernatorial election, which is 4 years from now. And so and to be able to do that, so if there's a blue wave in 24, it's very unlikely that they could get an amendment onto the state constitution for the 26th election, which would be the next time that you could possibly make an amendment. You could undo this amendment to the state constitution. And so realistically, they're betting on, even if the Democrats take over the state, it would be 2030 at best before the Democrats could take apart this constitutional amendment to get more union power in the state of Tennessee. Does that make sense? Like, they could change
like I said, like I still don't understand what exactly we're changing it from, as far as like legally, definitively.
Right.
What exactly is changing?
It's not. That's the point, though.
This new amendment.
The point is that
this amendment is amending language in what's codified in our state constitution.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's what I'm wondering. Like, what wording exactly is changing?
Right. I don't know. We'd have to get at the Tennessee Code 880. But the point is that it's not change. Like, the law of the land is not changing. It will just make it so that if the law of the land changes to be more union friendly, it can't do it quickly. It'd have to go through the constitutional process.
No. you're amending it, you are changing the law of the land. We're literally amending the state constitution.
Right, but when I say the law of the land, I mean the general practice at play. So the general practice at play right now is not going to change at all after this amendment gets added to the Constitution of the state of Tennessee.
I mean, something's changing. I don't know what exactly.
Well, no, it changes. All it changes is that if you want to change in the future, it's going to be harder.
Right.
Basically.
Right, because what it's doing is
this is the law.
It's taking things that exist. It's taking a bunch of parts that exist already in different parts of Tennessee code annotated that will still be there, but it's confining them into one thing and putting it as a constitutional amendment, which is a bigger process. So the day-to-day won't change after this. Where it sits in Tennessee law will, because it makes it a constitutional thing instead of just regular Tennessee code annotated.
How do we know it's not going to change day to day if we don't know what exactly it is changing?
Because everything
it would be like my good example, not a great example, but like make sense. So I pay $1,000 a month for a lease, and my lease is up in 3 years, and then we vote and say, if you want to raise my rent in 3 years, you can't do it for another 5 years. So what I'm doing now doesn't change, but in 3 years from now, if you want to change what my lease is, you can't do it for another 5 years. So my day-to-day doesn't change, but it makes it harder for that person to change what I'm currently doing to a later date.
Right.
Is that right?
That's how I see it. Yes, more or less.
I mean, I completely understand that if you codify an amendment, it makes it that much harder to then overturn it. But I mean, what is the motive behind, if we're admitting that there's a motive behind codifying this to make it harder to then change in the future, what exactly is being changed that gives them this desire to want to codify something to make it harder to change?
Well, they're not selling it that way, but what they're changing exactly. Where it sits in the hierarchy of state law.
What do we change? Okay.
They're just changing where the law sits in the hierarchy, as I guess what I'm saying. Because it sits in part if this passes, it'll sit as part of the Constitution instead of just being a regular law that's passed in the state house.
No. Again, I don't understand where the law sits. If most people are saying this isn't actually changing anything, that we've essentially already had these rights as it's already been stated that they're supposedly now just codifying.
Right, because it's being sold as this is a protection, this is going to keep it this way. It's important for the economics of the state of Tennessee. It's not being sold as that this is a politics game because nothing is actually changing. It's being sold as this is going to make sure that the loony leftists don't come in here and turn us into California. That's how they're selling it. But the reality is nothing is functionally changing except the future's ability to change it.
We're assuming.
I mean, that is how I understand it, at least. I mean, I'm still waiting on getting somebody that's not a candidate to explain it to me because I don't trust a candidate's explanation because they have an agenda in how they're explaining it. Right. But I've talked to a few different people about it. And that is the gist. Because none of these things, like all of the, as we've read it the last couple of times, like, you know, if I go to work at UPS has a union, they can't refuse hiring me if I refuse to join the union at UPS.
Right.
Where, you know, and again,
as it stands, I mean, I can kind of concede if, I guess, in the legal system that this has been a constant issue of like, this has been a gray area. And everyone's been like, well, we're not really sure what to do. It's not really on the books. I mean, but it doesn't seem like that the way it's been. Like, it seems like everyone that I've heard like talk about this is the way it has been. We're not really changing anything. Like, there hasn't been no dispute in questioning this whatsoever.
I guess if you, let's say, I'm trying to think of a different version of Max's lease example. If you had I don't know. Let's say like the easement on your house, right? So the edge of the house, the edge of your property where it hits the county road or whatever, that the first 4 feet from the curb is utility easement, which means the utilities can come in and dig it and do whatever they want in there and you know, put water lines and sewage lines in there without your permission,
okay.
right?
Okay.
And that's the way it currently stands. And the state can the coming up here in the first of next year, the state legislature can go in and they can change that to 5 feet or 6 feet, or reduce it to 3 or 2 feet, or change the permission that the utility has to get from you in order to do something, right?
Okay.
Well, if instead of changing the laws on the books, a pro-utility lobbyist comes in and pushes through a constitutional amendment saying that, you know, you can't obligate utilities to do any permissions or anything like that within the 4 feet window. Now, the other things still exist already, because the 4 feet thing is what is currently on the table. Well, now it's a constitutional issue instead of just a state law issue. It now takes a constitutional amendment to undo that, which means at best case you're looking at 4 years, but realistically 8 to 12 years before you can have a real shot at changing that item, because it changes in the hierarchy where the law sits. If it sits inside the Constitution, it's a much bigger process to change. And so what the Republicans are doing is, even if they lose control of the House or governor or any of that, and the pro-union that is kind of popular right now nationwide comes into Tennessee, if this passes, it's going to take a long time for it to get unpassed, because it's a constitutional issue instead of just Tennessee Code annotated 2022.
I guess I kind of see that.
And so it's really just, it's not in order to change anything. That's why I was bringing up the trigger law thing, is that it's really an action for the future to keep things from being able to be changed by a future legislative body who should be able to vote on this issue as a regular legislative body. But it's a way for the current legislative body, who's a strongly Republican controlled, to protect against a future Democratic body that eventually takes over the state house from undoing some of their work. Or, you know, doing the will of the people, because we as Tennesseans decided we're done with this shit and we want to change it. Well, now it's a big fucking issue to change it for this legislative body that we voted in to get rid of the bullshit that's already here. Does that make sense? No?
I mean, kind of. But I mean, I would think even in that democratic sense, it's then just putting a hindrance upon something we may realize is an issue. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't matter if we all realize it's an issue. It's still going to be 6 years before we can do anything about it.
Yes. I mean, it goes into the same kind of issues of why Max doesn't like to vote, because nothing really changes. Because this is a game. This is a strategy of the game for Republicans to retain control even when they don't have it over certain issues by making it a constitutional item. They even if they get voted out of office and it goes from a majority Republican, a supermajority Republican House and Senate, to a simple majority Democratic House and Senate that could change the law, this slows it down for them in the future. And then the Republicans in that future can run against them and be like, see, they can't even do the things they promised. Well, they could. It's just they have to go through the different process because you made it a constitutional amendment. And so it's just a game for the Republicans to retain control even when they don't have it. Over this particular issue, at least.
I mean, I really just don't see this issue as a Republican issue. I mean, I see this as just an anybody issue. It's like, hey, it's already on the books that an employer can't discriminate if you do want to be or don't want to be. I mean, I see how that supports both sides. So the quote-unquote Democrats that want to be a part of the union, or the quote-unquote Republicans that don't want to be a part of the union.
Right, but
that's supporting both sides.
But functionally, it doesn't. Functionally, it is anti-union to let people come to work, because if it weakens if let's say you guys decided to unionize on us, and Max and I are now owners of a company and our staff is unionized, right? But we're allowed to hire people who don't want to be part of the union. Well, we're only going to hire people that don't want to be part of the union. And eventually, the union will die because all the employees will have not joined the union. And so it's in our interest as the business owner to hire employees that don't want to be part of the union. At least in the traditional argumentative sense. I'm not saying, it's not particularly about us and how we feel about unions and stuff like that. I'm just saying that that's the argument at play, is that if the boss has the choice to hire people that want to work for a union or not, they're going to hire somebody that don't want to be part of the union, because that gives them more control, because that's not a union employee. They don't have to worry about the union doing things and this, that, and the other. And eventually, if all they hire are people that don't join the union, there's no union.
Okay. I mean, a company would make that choice, but then would be opening itself up for, if that's a standing rule, that you cannot discriminate because someone doesn't want to be in the union. I mean, it's their burden of proof to then prove that they weren't hired because they were pro-union. But
right,
that's still. I mean,
right. The standard is at play that if I didn't hire you, that you could argue that I didn't hire you because you wanted to work there as part of the union.
Right.
And
I don't really see how it makes a huge difference, really, either way.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a particularly pro-union person myself, so I don't quite understand any strengthening of union ideals personally. So I don't know if I'm the best to have the conversation about it. I'm just, as I understand it, the right to work is specifically targeted to keep unions out. If you break down to the functionality of it, it's sold as this gives you the choice as the employee to be who you want to be and work how you want to work and that kind of stuff. That's the sales pitch. But the one layer down is that this is detrimental to union.
I guess I just kind of saw it as protecting both pro and anti.
Yeah.
You can't discriminate one way or the other.
Yeah. But again, and you're right. It does theoretically have the door open to say that. I guess you can't be, if you can't discriminate, then it can't be used against you either.
Right.
Like, it's not a protected class, so then you couldn't sue me if you thought I didn't hire you because you wanted to be part of a union. That would protect me, the employer, from you, the employee, on a discrimination issue. If you're claiming that I'm discriminating against you, because what it's saying is that that's not a discriminatory factor, at least legally speaking.
I wish we could.
No, I think it's saying that it can be used as a discriminatory factor, that you cannot either not hire or fire, I'm assuming, as well, based upon their desire to or opposition to being a part of or not being a part of a union.
Right, but as I'm saying, it's like, so if it's open either way, then it's open either way, and so it basically says it cannot be a factor.
Yeah,
and it's not a discriminatory factor. So if I say I'm not hiring you because you want to be part of a union, it doesn't matter, because it's not a factor. It's not, at least legally speaking. What were you saying, Max? You wish you could?
I said I wish we could just tell people, like, you look like a crackhead, I'm not fucking hiring you, I don't trust you.
I mean,
like,
I mean, the issue.
No, I mean, you can't. Like, but like, you have people come and apply, and you're like, I would not hire you in a million years. But you got to be like, oh, let me take your application. I got to talk to you, but like,
right. And you could theoretically have to defend yourself for choosing to not hire somebody.
Well, you just say, like, oh, you don't fit the qualifications, or, well, you don't even have to tell anybody why you're not hiring them. You just tell them they're not hired. But like, it would save a lot of time if you could just be like, no, I'm not giving you an application.
Well, and it'd be a better world if the economy was generally speaking strong enough that people who want to work have options to work, because the dynamic, the capital versus labor dynamic, at least traditionally in the United States system, capital always has the upper hand. And I think there's a lot of legislative issues, both federally and locally, that play into that I think could be dismantled to help strengthen employee power, that for whatever reason, is not a discussion. I think I think it should be illegal that healthcare is tied to your employment. I think they should take that out. I think it's backwards. This idea that I want, like, I mean, half the reason I keep the day job is insurance. You know, and I think that puts the power in the employer's hand, because, okay, well, now it's a bigger deal for you to lose a job, because not only do you lose your income, you lose your health care. You lose your retirement program. Like, how many things are attached to our jobs that make it harder for you to quit your job if you just don't like working there, other than the money? And a lot of the more progressive-minded people want more of that, want more things put on employers so that employers have to do all this thing. It's like all you're doing is growing dependency on the employer when you're trying to make it.
Talk about Obamacare. You can get insurance whenever you want to the open marketplace.
Oh, yeah, you could. But it's not as easy, or generally speaking, as far as I understand it, at least as good as most employers' insurance programs. You know, and it makes it harder for people to work for small businesses, because small businesses tend to be less shitty owners because they know their employees instead of being one of 10,000 and a number. In the big corporations, the small businesses are one of 8 or 10, and they know and care about their staff because they actually know them as people, not just as numbers on the spreadsheet. Which, it's, again, I you know, I don't like the single payer option, but I think that's better than what we're doing. I think we got to, like, I think it's ridiculous that anybody ever thinks to themselves, I have to keep this job that I hate because I need my insurance, not because I need the money, because I need the insurance. I think that's dumb. And so I think I think that's one of those things to me, is like, if the economy was doing better, which I think was one of the things that just happened in the weirdism that we just had. That's why unions are all hot and popular again, is because for a stretch there was a period of time where there were more employers looking for employees than there were employees wanting to work. And I don't mean to put this wanting to work lazy ass thing out in the, that's not what I'm trying to talk about. Regardless of what the reasoning is for why the numbers were off, the fact that there were fewer people seeking work than there were employers seeking employees put power in the employee hand to be able to demand more for their work, whether it's worth it or not. It's just that's the market at play. That's free market capitalism at play. I need people to work. I got to pay them more. That's the step I need to take to get them in here. And that's one of the best things that's happened to employee pay. Better than a minimum wage increase, better than all sorts of different stuff that the government could try to do. And now it's falling apart again. But the economics of we need more people starting businesses and trying to hire people is what we need. That's what's going to be the best thing for employees, is more jobs available. Did you hear about California?
No, I don't.
They passed a law. And it's I don't know exactly where it is in the process. I don't know if it's fully passed or yet. I think maybe Newsom has introduced it and it's in legislation right now, but it's likely to pass or whatever. They're doing it's called sector-based. It's like sector-based collective something. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but essentially it's the state of California is going to basically run mega unions. It's the best way I can think of to describe it. So instead of it being like McDonald's employees union, it would be fast food workers employees unions. And so the state of California would say, if your business falls under the fast food category, here are the minimum payments or insurance options, whatever all the different things are, as a backstop against the corporate version. So like McDonald's and Hardee's and all those mistreating their employees, the state of California is going to say, okay, well, if you're going to be a fast food place, you have to pay $15 an hour, you have to offer insurance, you have to do this, you have to do that. And that's their way. They're going to try to manipulate the employee market for better wages and stuff like that. And then different industries will have different standards, and some state panel will decide the specifics.
That's weird. That's fucking.
I mean, it sounds insane to me just because I can't.
But you know what? like I say with everything, if you're against that shit, then fucking leave California. If you're for that shit, stay in California. If the people in California love those fucking laws, good for them.
I don't disagree with you. I remember we talked about this about the same mark last week, is that I think that one of the interesting things about the United States and the way the United States works is it's supposed to be United States, and the states are separate entities that they could kind of operate on their own.
Yes, that's how states should operate. Like, you may go to Mexico for vacation and enjoy the shit in Mexico, not caring about what the fucking government's doing to their people, whatever, all that kind of shit.
Well, okay, go ahead.
I can live in the United States and go to California and know they have these gun bans and crazy laws and shit, all their shit that's going on that they like, and still enjoy the beach in California.
Now the question is, because you bring up a good example and the difference between going to Mexico and California. Mexico can refuse to let you in. Now, under the United States Constitution, could California refuse to let you in? Like, if California's doing all these things and somehow it's working out really well and everybody's really happy and excited about it, and all of a sudden everybody, wants to move to California because the welfare system's better or whatever it is, can California say no? Our system can't handle more people on this part of the system. Can you have a California visa that you can come into California and live and work, but you have to register with us, and we have to tell you whether or not what you want to do work-wise is of a value to California.
No, but you can visit California and then go back to where you are.
I know, but what if you want to go to California, but the California system doesn't want more people? Does California have the right to refuse? And that's the
No,
well,
no, they don't.
I'm not using.
I don't think they do either.
Analogy.
No, I don't think that was what you were trying to say.
Mexico has some fucked up shit, but I don't want to go there to fucking live. I just want to enjoy the
right.
Cool shit
I wasn't trying to restate yours in a different manner. It's when you had mentioned the going to visit Mexico or going to visit California thing, it got me thinking about the difference. In as much as I like the idea of the United States being independent states to kind of do what they want, that one little factor of California cannot refuse to let a U.S. citizen in to the state of California.
And Mexico can, I agree.
But in Mexico can, and that's what I'm saying is that is the thing holding back the greatness of that idea to me. And I don't know if I mean that exactly. I said that, but the idea that you could put a super great socialist system in place that does really well and takes care of the lowest end, and the top end gets taxed a lot, but they're happy with it because it's a nice place and blah, 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 blah. Well, that system can't work if you can't control who's coming in and out of it.
Well, that works better for my analogy, what you're saying right there. Because if I use the analogy like, oh, you don't like what Texas is doing with those abortion laws, you should just leave Texas, go live somewhere else.
Right. It doesn't. It does back that up. You're right.
But we're United States. Like, we should all be one people. Yeah, we're United States. That's why you can go live in California and love those laws in California and live in California and have all those privileges that you enjoy that you can't do in Texas, in California, and no one can stop you. That's why we're the United States. That's why you're part of that, because not every area is going to be great. Go down in fucking southern Louisiana in the hillbillies and go, oh, this fucking shit is redneck and hillbilly and people living in swamps. No, we don't need to do this. We need to have a major city right here, and we need to have transportation that takes people everywhere, and nobody should have cars. And but no, there's a place like that. It's not here. It's somewhere else in the United States.
I agree.
You can have that shit.
I really agree with the general premise of what you're getting at, but the problems that come up inside that, which I'm not advocating against what you're saying, but like the thing in Jackson, Mississippi right now is probably that's the antithesis of why this system is.
Well, I don't know what's happening in Jackson, Mississippi.
They're the next Flint, Michigan. Like, literally, they're in like the first phase of what went through Flint, Michigan in the water crisis.
Like water, that fucking
right, that'll kill you, or you can't drink it. Right, they've been on a minimum of a water boil since like June, but in the last couple of weeks, it's gone to no, you just don't have water. can't take a shower, can't drink it, can't cook with it. And Jackson is the capital of the state. And the state government is refusing to help the city government because of the city government's politics versus the state's politics.
Yeah, well, I mean, the city needs to do better. Raise their taxes.
I mean, I don't know exactly how all that breaks out, but I'm just saying that they're talking to like $1 billion project that it's going to take to get their waterworks back to functional.
Well, how does it get functional?
Because it hasn't had
been, I guess, from what I've read, it's just like years and years and years of their water treatment facility just being below adequate, and they just kind of been getting by. I think I read like 10 years. They've been saying like, hey,
needing significant upgrades
and
repairs and remodels, and not having the funding in the local government to do it, state and federal funding being refused for one reason or the other, and it just got to the point where whatever. Which again goes back to...
I think they just got like a bunch of flooding, which all of that water, the same issue we have here, where that water treatment facility is still processing all that rain going through most of the gutters outside of any gutter that drains straight into the river. It has to go through our water treatment plants.
Right, and they can't keep up with it.
Right.
Okay, so the problem is the state government should have said, do you guys want to have water? We got to raise fucking taxes to pay for this fucking water.
But that
treatment facility.
I mean, I don't disagree with you in if a functional government was working that way, but it's at least what the understanding I have of it is that it's a strongly Republican state government that says we don't raise taxes because we're Republicans. Figure out how to pay for it some different way. We're not raising taxes so that you and your mismanaged local government can use these funds.
So it was a Republican-based people that decided that, like, we don't need this shit. So I don't feel fucking sorry for them.
But it's not Republican-based people that are living with the shit, because the majority of the Jackson is one of the few Democrat voting subsections of the state. If there's a single Democrat in state office, it's from Jackson. It's not from anywhere else in the state. So it's a 100-member body, there's 2 Democrats in there from Jackson, and the other 98 are from the rest of the state.
But it's a city issue.
I don't know who it falls on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is it a city issue?
State
issue?
I mean, given that it's the state capital, I feel like it's both. Realistically, I mean, the state capital uses this system, and it would be in their best interest for their facilities to have potable water, among other things. But, I mean, I would think that, I don't know, because that's one of the things, again, that Langan was talking about, is that there's, to me, at least in the state of Tennessee, it's all state issues. Everything's a state issue. Now, the state may dump responsibility on a local on a local municipality, but at the end of the day, the state is the one that's going to be that allow. So the city, or I'm sorry, Knox County exists at the pleasure of the state of Tennessee. Does that make it more sense?
Well, we'll break. We're talking about water, right? Where I live, I pay 3 times what everyone. I pay 3 times more water than anyone else in the state of Tennessee.
Okay.
Do I have a choice? Yeah, I can leave fucking where I live.
Okay.
I don't, because I like where I live. So I don't have a fucking choice. Like, these people in Jackson pay 3 times what you pay in water, and maybe you'll have the same kind of water I have.
I mean, they are paying a lot. Apparently, like up to $1,800 for some households. But I don't know. I haven't gotten that far down the rabbit hole.
What I'm saying is, like, then all those fucking people leave Jackson.
I mean, that's as much as I agree with you in the principle on that, but it's not that it's not a simple.
I mean, just like you said, I mean, you like where you live.
Then fucking pay it. Pay for the increase in taxes that you have to pay to develop this water treatment plant.
I mean,
I'm sure many would like to, but I mean, a lot of those people just aren't going to be able to afford it. And I understand, they can just get up and move. It sounds simple, but I mean, those people that are just barely making ends meet can't just up and rent a U-Haul to go move a place. And
I think
automatically pay. And if they're just renting, paying, first month's rent, last month's rent, and a deposit.
So I think that's what I think that I figured it out. We need to start a nonprofit. It's a move your ass nonprofit. That's what we do. You hate where you live. You hate the government. You hate the rules. You hate the laws and stuff in the place where you live. Send in an application to us, and if we are down with your reasoning for wanting to get out of town and you can't afford to get out of town, we'll move you.
Look,
so anybody in Tennessee who wants
my brother-in-law and sister-in-law lived here in Tennessee. Neither one of them made a lot of fucking money. They weren't. They were probably on the lower end of working. They saved some money and they moved to fucking Oregon, drove all the way to the country, and go. You can. You choose.
I agree. I agree with you.
There's no reason that you can't leave where you're living.
I generally speaking agree with you, but at the end of the day, I think anywhere in this country, in the richest country on the planet, that it should not be possible that a major municipality, a state capital for that matter, has unpotable water. I don't think that should be a possibility.
I agree with you.
And that for whatever reason it got there.
That's on that state.
If for whatever reason it got there, there should be something that we can do as the richest country in the world to help mitigate the issue and correct it for the future.
No,
we just sent $13 billion to Ukraine again.
No, but that's the state of Mississippi.
But
it's like the state of Mississippi can correct that problem. The state of Mississippi is choosing not to correct that problem.
Well, but again, but some of the more specific details in this one is I think it was inside the infrastructure bill, the federal infrastructure bill that went through earlier this year. There was a specific earmark for Jackson, Mississippi water treatment, and it didn't get done.
Why?
Don't know. I don't know if it's the state or the local. I don't know which version of government let it happen. I'm assuming it's the state because the state, at the end of the day, has the authority over anything that goes on in its own state. But it happened.
But if there was something in the bill to fix that thing, then, I don't know shit about Mississippi. I don't know anybody who lives in Mississippi. But, they need to be riding. They need to fucking have some fucking Proud Boys go and storm the Capitol and fix their fucking problem.
Again, I think there are major issues that are going on in that state that are not in the interests of that state and its residents. Because I would bet that somebody down in, I was going to say Gulf Shores, but that's Alabama. What's coastal Mississippi?
Biloxi.
All right, so I would bet there's people in Biloxi that are like, why does Jackson not have water? We pay our taxes. Why isn't this getting taken care of? I would assume that some random rural person's the same way.
You know what else is all over Biloxi? Fucking casinos.
Yeah. They should be making fat bank. Maybe they should have $1 billion to share.
Fucking everyone go, hey, should casinos pay 10% more taxes? Yep. Your problem solved.
Perhaps. I get...
No. I guarantee if they say they have to pay 10% more taxes, that problem's solved. The casinos have to pay 10% more. Casinos are going to close.
The money would be there, but would it solve the problem is the question. I don't disagree that they would raise the funds, but
yeah. I agree with you because.
But from how I understand it,
already had solved the problem and it wasn't solved.
Right. From how I understand it, it's not a question of funds per se. It's a question of willingness for the state government to do it. And for whatever reason, the state government is refusing, mostly because apparently the mayor of Jackson is a socialist, literally like a democratic socialist. Not like a crazy loony leftist, like this guy actually ran as a socialist. Which...
So, it doesn't matter. Jesus.
But, we do that shit here in Tennessee, too. There's plenty of stuff. If Knox County... if Knox County ever goes more blue, the state of Tennessee government will punish Knox County for electing Democrats. They've done it to Nashville. They've done it to Memphis. They'll add us to the list because the rural counties have the in the way our state government works. The rural counties have an outsized outsized power in the state legislature. And so, well, we don't like what the Democrats in Memphis are doing, so we're going to punish them. And they do it. They've done it. That's what the whole voucher thing that already exists is. There's plenty of stuff they've done with that before. And it just so happens that we are in a Republican district, so they don't say fuck us as hard as they do Memphis.
I'm just saying, I don't know how, if something is, if federal government is like, hey, this is for this.
And they don't do it. Right. I agree.
The state does not do it. How is there not lawyers involved in going, we're suing the fucking state of Mississippi because this money was supposed to be spent on this, and it wasn't spent on this.
Right. But I mean, it's not dissimilar to the Medicare thing in Tennessee, is that there's funding available for expanding Medicare in the state of Tennessee from the federal government, and the state of Tennessee is refusing it against the wishes of some people, but apparently politically speaking, because that's one of the things that every Democrat running for November election in the state of Tennessee is running on. There's federal funds available for the expansion of Medicare in the state of Tennessee, and for whatever reason, the Republicans are refusing it. Now, I've been dying to get a Republican on to explain to me why they're refusing it, because they're going to give some reason about how we don't take the handouts from the federal government. It always comes to strings attached or something like that, and I'd love to learn more about it. But at least the simple version is there's free money, and we're not taking it because we're Republicans.
Well, I mean, there's a difference of... Again, I don't know shit about Mississippi, but what you're saying is like, oh, there is government money available if you want to apply for this. That is completely different than a federal bill that says we're giving money to, Mississippi for.
All right. As I understand it, inside the infrastructure bill was a specific earmark for Jackson.
So if there was, that's not like what you're talking about, where there is money available that
you have to do the process to get it. Right, I get it. Yeah,
that's completely different than saying,
right,
there's money here.
Right. It's right. There's a difference in I am sending you a check to do this job versus if you want to do this job, you can ask me for the money and I'll give it to you.
Yeah, it's like Pell Grants.
Right.
Like, I'm poor. I can't go to college. Did you apply for a Pell Grant? Well, no, I didn't apply for a Pell Grant. Well, that's free money.
Right. If you go through the process, which is what Tennessee is doing on the Medicare thing. I get what you're saying as a comparison.
Yeah.
But
so you get your student loans paid off? Talking about that?
They haven't taken it yet. They usually take it around the 4th. And I actually thought about that today, and I was checking my bank account on it. And, excuse me, they hadn't taken it out as of this afternoon when I looked earlier, but I haven't checked since. But I was actually looking. I'm keeping an eye on that because they do it. It's an automatic withdrawal.
So you didn't have any Pell Grants? None of the loans were Pell Grant?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. I don't have enough to go
okay.
If they pay off everything, of the $10,000 that's available,
okay, you have less than $10,000. Okay, I got you.
Right. Even with what I can get paid back for what I paid this year, it won't add up to 10. So even if 20 is available, it doesn't make a difference, right?
I gotcha.
Although I'm sure there's something in the weeds somewhere that I forgot about that's going to pop up as soon as the final notice goes out or whatever.
I wish I had known about this because I would have taken out. So I went to get some classes or something, take out some student loans.
Yeah, that would have been a smart thing to do, I guess.
Yeah. I wish I would have been irresponsible and take some random classes.
I don't necessarily agree with your complaint on this one. My complaint is that it doesn't fix anything. It just helps some people out, which again, helping people out is not the worst thing ever. I don't necessarily disagree with you that you're helping people out that made poor life choices and it's kind of stupid. I don't necessarily disagree with that part of it. But at the end of the day, you're helping people out. That's not automatically a bad thing. The problem is you're not fixing they're not fixing anything. They're just throwing some money out, which again goes back to what I believe is just they're buying votes. This is right in time for all the midterm excitement and this is an attempt by the Democrats to keep control of the House and not lose control of the Senate, if not get a little bit more control in the House.
Yeah, because a person that had $10,000 left on their student loans. I mean, it's more a slap in the face of the guy that had $100,000. You know, he's been paying it off.
No, the slap in the face is the kid that's taking the loans out right now. That just started school and was really excited to start school, and it's like, I'm going to get after this thing, and like that money's not that 10 grand. I haven't accrued 10 grand in debt yet, so I can't apply for this thing. And so by the time I finish school, I'm going to have that 120 that everybody complains about, but this 10 grand, 20 grand, or whatever is going to be gone.
Or maybe he's like, I'll just take as much debt out as I need to.
Right, and in another 20, 30 years, they'll do it again.
Yeah.
Right.
But like what you said is like, at the end of the day, like the people that need the money, like 10 grand is not making a dent in their student loans.
Oh yeah, and then going back to other things that people are stuck with their jobs on is how many. There's a lot of jobs out there. There's people that work for the state or the county or something like that have deferrals, and after a series of a number of years working for whatever government agency, they can get their student loans. You were talking about your friend that's a teacher that's 20 years into 25 years of getting their student loan excused. You could hate your job to death, but that's $80,000. Survive 5 more years of this shit job, and you're getting $80,000 knocked off for your credit.
My sister-in-law, like,
she took 120. She's been paying for 20 years. Is only down to 80. But if she can get to 25 years of the job, she'll get the rest of it covered. And
exactly, it'll be paid off.
Right.
And so this whole student loan doesn't do anything, because even though they pay $10,000 of her student loan, that's not important. The important is
the 5 more years. Right. But she's stuck.
She'll have everything paid.
Right. She is stuck at the whim of the job. Like, how big of a deal would it be for her to get fired? Like, that's $100,000 problem for her to get fired.
Well, she's a teacher. They're not getting fired.
I'm just saying, I mean, she might have the wrong book in her classroom if she was in Tennessee. But, I mean, that's happening here, too.
You got to molest a child, really, to get fired from being a teacher. Like,
I'm just saying, like, if you're in the state of Tennessee and you're one of the teachers in the state of Tennessee that's really upset about all this different crazy bullshit that Governor Lee's doing right now, and you're 15 years into 25 of getting your student loans paid for, rather. You're 15 into 25 and you hate it. You hate everything that's going on right now. The state of Tennessee is telling you that you have to teach kids about Jesus, and you're an atheist, and you don't think it's appropriate for public schools to be making kids teach about Jesus. But you're staring down the barrel of a $100,000 loan. No, they're not. They don't. Not yet.
You telling that?
Huh?
You shouldn't be telling kids about Jesus.
Anyway,
Jesus.
you get my point. You got 10 more years to get the student loan thing covered.
Our Lord and Savior. We should not be telling children about that.
I mean, you can. Whatever. I'm not. That's not the point I'm getting to, and you know it. But that's a shit position to put somebody in, and it's all about putting the weight on the employer, and the employer happens to be the state in this one. But I think I think having all these things attached to work it's bad for it weakens the employee power in the exchange. Because it's not, for your sister-in-law, it's not just health insurance. It's not just paycheck. It's not just retirement and pension. It's also this giant student loan debt. And so what would the school system that she works for have to do for her to walk away from all of that? It'd have to be pretty damn bad. And I think that's a terrible spot to put an employee in.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
All right. So last call. Anything else you got, fellas?
I don't have anything else.
Sam, you got to give us a Florida man. That's going to be a new normal.
I did hear a funny story. The new Prime Minister of Great Britain, Liz Truss. Apparently, there's someone else. I believe she's also British, who has, I think it was a Twitter handle @LizTruss. So all these people were, sending her congratulations, I guess today and yesterday or whenever it became official, where got officially sworn in. Even I want to say one of them was like the head of Sweden, and the lady even like responded back. Some of them kind of like jokingly, but apparently the story was she responded back to like the head of Sweden and was like, thanks a lot, keep the meatballs warm. But apparently, like the official, because I guess this woman's been in politics for years, but I guess her official handle, or whatever, was like Trust Liz or at Trust Liz is her official Twitter handle or whatever the social media handle was. So this one lady got
this random lady that's funny.
It was getting all these retweets or whatever, like congratulations on the new prime ministership, blah blah blah.
You need to monetize that handle quick and make as much money as you can with your newfound fame, and before you lose it.
Apparently she played around with it a little bit.
Apparently, like that reminds me, like back in the early '90s or whatever, when the internet was starting to roll in or whatever, they were, I think they called them URL prospectors. And so it was people that just like they saw the internet for what it was, and so they went out and started buying URLs, and so they'd buy bestbuy.com and Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee.com and all that kind of stuff. And at some point the federal government stepped in and said, like, you can't just do that and charge a ridiculous amount. You got to, I don't know, the FCC or SCC came in and did whatever. And like one of the biggest stories on it was this guy named something McDonald did McDonald's.com. And it was like he did like a family reunion site. He had like family photos and, calendar of events when the family was getting together for different stuff. And McDonald's tried to take it from him because they were claiming that he was trying to prospect it and whatever. And he's like, no, I'm using this site for family. I can't remember what McDonald's ended up having to pay for it, but it was something big. Yeah. Just reminded me of that story when you're telling about this Liz lady. Yeah, I heard she had some crazy quote about the use of nuclear weapons, and it's kind of scary. That's all I've heard on her so far.
Yeah. That we should use them all the time.
Yeah,
whenever available.
Well, it's like it was a really weird question too, and apparently, like British news media is much like you don't get access to the prime minister and like top government officials if you're seen as antagonist or something like that. And so the way they question is really weird. And so it's like it's really weird things like how I know that the policy of the United Kingdom or whatever is we won't use nuclear weapons unless it's the absolute last ditch effort and there's no other options or whatever. But if you had to use them, how would you feel about it? And it's like that's a really weird question because how do you answer that? Like I will feel great about doing the last possible thing I can possibly do in the worst possible circumstances. I don't know. I'd have to look up the specific quote, but that's the gist of it as I heard it. But so we'll see how that how her feelings on nuclear weapons impacts the Ukraine-Russia issue.
I didn't realize I don't keep up with it as much, but I think they said this is like the 6th prime minister in 4 years or something like that.
Is the 6th election or the 6th prime? Because Boris Johnson's been there for
6th prime minister.
Nah, Boris Johnson's been there since the Trump administration. So that's at least like he was there for most of the Trump administration. So that's 6 years now.
Maybe it was like 6 and 8 years or something like that. It was something crazy where it was, a high amount of like leaders of a country as far as like turnover in a relatively short period of time.
I know there was a stretch with what's guy from Israel?
Netanyahu.
Yeah, where there was a stretch where they had like 8 or 12 votes in 1 year, and they couldn't get a big enough coalition to get the party out or whatever because of the parliamentary style, whatever. Right,
yeah. Yeah, they kept having recalls for votes, and his party kept the majority, which kept him. So he kept
him in power. Yeah, it was crazy that way. But all right, well, fellas, it's a good show. I enjoyed that. Yeah. All right, hopefully I'm not sick next week, and we can be in the flesh.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. All right, guys. Love you. Good night.
Bye.
Almost in Agreement talks about stuff. That's what we do. We talk about stuff. We're Almost Agreement, almostagreement@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com while you're there. Check out the Voter Guide 22. It's going to have a link to that Langen one I did today, the other one I did last week, and any ones I do in the future. coming up to this November election. And if I can ever get it figured out and get somebody to come in here and really explain all 4 of these amendments, we'll have those on there as well. You've got KGIS and Knox County Election Commission. You can check your voting registration status as well as your polling location, all those kind of things. If you don't know where to vote already, you can figure that out there. I've got nothing specifically scheduled, but I'm sure I'm going to get some more people scheduled very soon. I do need to get Briggs now, and I need to get Lafferty because I at least had their opponents, and that's the minimum I want to try to get to, but I'm going to keep working through as many as I can. Elaine Davis is on my list of wants. And I don't know, Gloria and Sam McKenzie and all those people too. So anyway, we're almost in agreement. Go to your favorite podcast provider. Give us a follow there. Tell your friends about us. Give us a 5-star review. All the nice things that helps us get the word out and spread what we do. Check out Barbarian Productions' other podcast, Compass Points podcast. It's on all your favorite podcast providers and stuff like that too. Good night, everybody.